Yo, people always ask me what kind of frames I'm rocking. I've been rocking Caddis for a couple years. They make amazing progressive readers, which I wear. Also, they make sunglass readers, anti-glare, anti-smudge coating, anti-scratch, and anti-aging. That's why I look mad young when I wear them. I'm just kidding. But they make amazing frames. Caddis, so stoked to have you guys part of the podcast. You can go to caddislife.com/Toby10 and get $10 off your first purchase. Stoked. Thank you, Caddis. Welcome to the fam. Yo, Liquid Death, thank you so much for hydrating all my guests, taking care of me and my family and my friends. Love your water, love your brand, love what you stand for, love what you give back to the community. If you want to learn more about Liquid Death and how it started, listen to episode 115 with the co-founder, owner, and creator of Liquid Death, Mike Cesario. Just a punk rock skateboarding kid from Delaware with a dream. It's an incredible story, incredible journey. They have now blessed me with my own code. So if you go liquiddeath.com/Toby, you get free shipping on any items you order from liquiddeath.com. Thank you so much, Liquid Death. Death to plastic, murder your thirst. Stay hydrated. You know H2O saves lives. Welcome to the One Life One Chance podcast. I'm your host, Toby Morse. Today, I have my brother from another mother back on the podcast, sitting to the right of me, Mr. Derek Green.
What's up? What's up?
I'm gonna miss you in a couple. I'm gonna miss you in a couple of days because you're finally going on tour after 2 years.
We'll see if it happens.
Once you make it there, you're just gonna get there and then see what happens first.
Thank you, though. Yes,
I'm excited to see a separate tour.
I'm staying optimistic. Yeah,
and then behind me, my other brother from another mother, Mr. Chappelle Lacey, is blessing us with his presence today on the podcast.
Yes.
The man of many podcasts, because he's a big fan of our guest and his band. So I had him come here today. So welcome to the podcast, Mr. Chris Shiflett.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here, man.
It's nice to be in your kitchen.
Yeah, thank you.
You got to get some sound effects going on. I can do that with my mouth. Though.
Do something. What you got?
It's like...
Have you managed to do this in your kitchen throughout all this like crazy COVID times? Because I had to switch to Zoom.
Yeah, I don't.
This is so much better.
I don't do. Yeah. I was doing phone calls, and it comes off really weird.
Yeah.
And so what I've been doing now, I've been redoing the same people when they come to. I wait for them to come, then I redo another one face to face. It's just a better combo.
Yeah,
but
you did have like one where it was just like. Somebody was like, I'm not taking the mask off.
Oh, yeah, just one. But that was deep in it.
That was
right.
so awesome.
And he's old. We're talking about it. He's older. He's older. Yeah,
right.
I totally get it.
There was a few, actually.
Yeah. You don't want to kill somebody on your podcast.
No. But you don't want them to sound like the Dark Lord.
I know, right?
It's just like...
But, yeah, so the ones with the phone, you can't get the same kind of combo. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
This
tough.
is nice face to face.
Yeah.
So how are you, man?
Stella,
Yeah, I
You
know,
got Stella,
right?
yeah. How are you, man? Welcome to the pod, and
Thank you.
nice to see you, man.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
It's been a really long time.
Yeah.
How do you guys know each other?
Probably from playing shows with the other bands he was in.
You know, the first time I ever, and I don't even know if I met you exactly on that tour, but the first time I ever saw you play and became aware of you was the first year of the Warped Tour in 1995. Because if I'm not mistaken, and I'm pretty senile, so I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure you guys played like a few of the East Coast dates, right? And that was like right at the beginning of H2O, like pretty
100%.
Soon in the early part of it.
Yeah, because our first record came out in '96. That makes sense.
Yeah. So that was summer of '95.
Wow.
Yeah, and I remember that tour was a trip because, like, you know, the lineup, but there was a lot of New York bands. Yeah. And I had just joined No Use for Name, like, not long, but I'd only done one trip with them. So I'd only been around the U.S. like one time at that point. So I didn't know any New York bands at all. I didn't know anybody from that scene. And there was like all these, you know, there was Quicksand and Civ and Sick of It All and a couple Orange 9mm, I think was there are all these bands. So there was this whole group of like New York dudes, New York hardcore dudes, you know. Yeah. And I swear to God, coming from the West Coast, like, it was kind of fucking intimidating. You know, like all these
should be, for God's sakes.
like West Coast punk rock, it was just a different vibe. You know, it was like you know what I mean? It was like silly, and like New York seemed a lot more serious. And I remember like especially like the Sick of It All dudes. I was just like, oh, those guys are gonna kill me. You know what I mean? They're fucking gnarly.
So crazy.
And then all those dudes turned out to be the coolest guys.
Yeah.
You know.
We were talking about that today, me and Chappelle, the difference of the East Coast and the West Coast, and the community and the unity and all that. And I feel like a lot of the Cali bands, they do really stick together and like look out for each other and always have each other on tour with them. Like I feel like that.
But also, like, West Coast is way more spread out. So maybe, like, you know, I think, that, you know, most of the bands around that time were probably friends and everything. Yeah. And knew each other. But, like, you know, you're talking about bands from, like, all, you know how it is to even tour the West Coast. It's like you're
Yeah.
driving for 6 or 10
Yeah.
hours, you know, between shows. So
Yeah.
whereas like the East Coast is way easier to tour,
Mm-hmm.
and I would think just because everything's so close together, I would think. I mean, I don't know. I think maybe also you tell me. Like I think the DC and Boston, New York scenes maybe had some tension there too.
There was.
Yeah,
There was like
there
a
was.
New York-Boston rivalry. There was
Yeah.
a difference in the style of dancing, more aggressive, more violent.
Yeah, I mean, it was like very segregated in a way.
Yeah.
You know, the
Oh,
whole
interesting.
scene in a weird way. Like
Yeah.
it didn't really start off that way though.
Well,
You
it's
know, when you talk to like the older cats from the scene, you know, they were telling, you know, there was a big mix of people in the woods.
Right.
But once these, like, I don't know, from different boroughs of New York
Oh, really?
started interacting, you know, somebody from Brooklyn or Queens or, you know, Manhattan, you know, there
Oh,
was like
interesting.
coming together.
And then
Yeah.
the straight edge
and
kids.
then straight edge.
There was, like,
and
different
then-
shows,
And then
like,
metal
yeah.
kids coming
Right,
to shows and
yeah.
all that. It was like kind of separate, you know, like if it was hard to distinguish the person. It's like, oh, you're a punk kid. You know, you
Right.
can't really listen to metal. I mean, I remember I was really, you know,
Had the
like
blinders
blinders
on.
up early on. I was just like, oh, this is metal. I'm not into it.
Right.
You
right,
know,
right.
which was
And
really
that's,
weird.
That's really interesting to hear because you think of like stuff that came out in the mid '80s and stuff like what was it, SOD or
Or
MOD?
DRI,
Well, yeah, all
MOD.
that stuff that was like the crossover stuff where it was like both those worlds kind of like
It started to
commingling
yeah,
or whatever, you know?
Yeah, it started to mingle that way. I mean, but for the most part, it was like, you know, metal kids were afraid to go to a hardcore show.
Right,
Like, oh, he's
right.
got long hair, get him!
Right.
You know, like, and that wasn't just like New York.
Yeah.
I mean, that was happening in many scenes. You know, I heard from Brazil
true.
and Sao Paulo.
interesting.
Like it was the same type of scenario,
Yeah.
but music helped to merge, you know, that
Well,
crossover.
Yeah.
It's funny, you know, like even just like having never spent any time in New York prior to that time for me, you know, everything you know is like from the movies or what
Warriors.
TV shows or Warriors. And so that was
Yeah.
like that's what I just thought in New York. And I remember on that tour there was like a couple days off, and I went into New York City with the Swingin' Utters guys because
Okay.
we were good pals.
Yeah.
and went in and stayed in town for a couple days, and I remember going to a show at Coney Island High.
Great spot,
Yeah,
dude. Great spot.
so great. Yeah,
Classic shows.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
and I met Rusty at that gig. And
Rusty
so
from
I had
Fort
this
Worth
vision of like New York being like fucking mean and scary and all that stuff. And I remember like I said something to him like, fuck, man, it's so great. Like, it's so fun here. I love this. I want to move out here. He's like, dude, you could live in my apartment. I was like, wait, what? I was like, you're not supposed to be nice. You know what I mean? Like,
That's because Rusty's not from New York. Yeah.
well, there you go.
I think New Yorkers, they got like a bad reputation of being really mean. It's actually the opposite.
But did it sound like this? Yeah, you can see, but you can live in my apartment. You can live in my apartment if you like to move in my
It's a
apartment.
perfect Rusty.
No problem. I
reputation.
live down the street. You can see my pets, and that's okay.
Wait,
Yeah,
wait.
it's like
so
Rusty's right here.
yeah, I was gonna say,
ahead,
correct me
Shabbat.
if I'm wrong. Like, I guess with New York, I think just everybody's just so straightforward.
True.
Like, there's no
Different.
like beat around the
Yeah.
bush
True.
to New York people. So like, some people would take that as mean, but it's not mean. It's just like,
Honest.
no, I'm gonna just tell you like very honestly, like this is what it is.
Right,
It's
right,
like rap. You know, rap report.
Right.
Yeah, it's like Rappaport.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's-
same.
New
You
Yorkers,
just-
I don't think are naturally mean. I think they're extremely, kind in so many ways.
Yeah.
Sure.
And very helpful, like true New Yorkers.
Right, right,
They're
right.
proud of New York. They want to show you the best side of it. And they have their
But there was that stigma of the New York hardcore
absolutely
scene.
for sure.
Yeah, it
Like,
just blew my mind because it was like the
Yeah.
opposite of what I expected.
Yeah.
You know what I
Right,
mean?
yeah.
Everybody's very warm and welcoming and friendly.
Yeah.
And, yeah. It's cool.
So did you have how many siblings do you have?
I have 2 older brothers, and I also have an older stepbrother as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So did they get you into shows when you were a kid? They get you into music, or was it you?
Yeah, oh, big time. Yeah, my older brothers both played guitar
Yeah.
and bass, and were just like into music. Just music was just everything. That was like
Yeah.
the only thing we cared about in our house was rock and roll.
Yeah, and you started like 11 years old or something, right?
Yeah, that's when I started playing guitar, and I felt like at the time I felt like I was getting a late start. You know.
Dang.
Wow.
Yeah,
Damn.
but it's like you also have to like. I didn't really start playing until high school. It's like I was taking guitar lessons and
Yeah.
kind of doinking around with it. But like once I got into high school and
Oh,
started
but
playing
you
in
did
bands,
take lessons.
yeah, I took some lessons. It's cool because my
Did
oldest
you learn
brother.
to read music or?
No, never got that far. But luckily,
Right.
my first guitar teacher gave me like a Beatles songbook and taught me a couple of scales, and I was
Sick.
like, I got it, woo! But and my oldest brother Mike who's really like started me and my brother Scott and our whole family kind of like down the music path. Like he's a guitar teacher nowadays at the store that we all learned how to play guitar at.
That's incredible.
And my guitar teacher from when I was a kid is still a teacher there.
That's
Scott Michael
amazing.
Fry.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, it's
great.
pretty cool.
Has he seen you play?
Live? I don't know. I don't know if
hope
he's been out to a show. I mean,
Yeah.
my brother has, of course.
No, your brothers, of course. No, but your
sure.
teacher.
Oh yeah, I don't know. Yeah, maybe.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is
I
he-
got to reach out to him and get him out to a gig. Now I feel like a dick.
It's like, teacher, you want to have one of I just imagine those moments. He's like in the audience, like, I taught him. You see that?
That's what I'm
I
saying.
taught him.
Yeah.
Like tearing up.
Totally.
That'd be kind of
let's
cool
hope.
to invite him. Yeah.
Slow clap, like
Yeah.
on the side of the
Oh,
stage.
you did good, yeah. It's funny that like the stuff that guy taught me was really is the foundation for everything that I've ever done. Really,
Were your parents musical?
not at all. No,
Oh,
my dad was into music, and we weren't really like I didn't grow up with my dad. Like my parents got divorced when I was pretty young, but he was certainly an influence. Like he loved music, but he didn't play music. My mom's musical taste was so bad. Like I mean she and the
What kind of
way
stuff
that
do you play in the house?
the way that she listened to music, like she would like one song from like an Anne Murray record and just play it on repeat over and over and over. That probably was like pushed us into
Punk
like
rock.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Going the opposite.
You're like, I gotta get out of here.
So she was playing stuff in the house, and
Yeah.
and then like, what kind of music were you into before you got into punk?
Oh, it's just classic rock
Okay,
and
yeah.
metal, and like classic rock, and then into like the early '80s, like all the Judas Priest and Scorpions and Iron Maiden, all that. Randy Rhoads was like my fucking idol. And
course.
then
Yeah.
you get into like Yngwie Malmsteen and all that, like just all that stuff. Yeah,
And this is in
Armored
Santa
Saint.
Barbara, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
It's beautiful there, man.
It is. I think your dog just had gas.
Oh, shit.
It's aimed right. It's aimed
you
right
are
at
so
me.
Sorry, man. Is this like shit over there?
So rude.
It's all good. Hey, I have a dog too. I just didn't want you to think it was me.
Oh, the
I'm
old
gonna
Stella.
invite this
Yeah.
motherfucker over to the podcast, and then he does that.
Strikes again.
I'm sorry. Yeah, my dog has done that a couple of times. Sorry, man. She loves you though.
Playing it off.
All right. So what was like your exposure to punk rock and all that stuff, and skateboarding too, right? For you?
Skateboarding, yeah. Skateboarding, like my first exposure to skateboarding was when I was pretty young. I think my mom got me and my brothers all matching. Sims was the big brand
Sims.
in the late '70s. It was Sims. They were
Yes.
local, so that was like local hometown
Oh, wow.
brand.
That's cool.
That's right.
In Santa Barbara, yeah. So it was a Sims. What was those things called? The Sims something. It was like just like a solid plank of wood, and then it had like an extra little bit for the tail.
Yeah.
With like the big pure juice red soft wheels.
I remember those. Yeah.
Yeah. So I got one of those, and then I think like a week later it got ripped off. So that was short-lived. But my brother Scott, he kind of stuck with it, and then like as things like evolved real quick, and I remember he had like an Andrecht concave with sky hooks. Do you remember sky hooks?
Yeah, I
That was
know.
a short-lived trend in skateboarding. Didn't last too long. And then like junior high for me was when like skateboarding really came like roaring back with like like Pal Peralta by
Bump
that
Brigade,
time. And
yeah.
I think Sims maybe had by that time sold Division, and I don't think we're local anymore. Pal Peralta was like the shit, and that was also local.
Yeah, it's still there. Yeah.
And then I remember like 8th grade, there was a great little skate shop opened up down on State Street that we would just hang out at, just like classic skate shop. Always have videos going, and you didn't care if you just went and loitered in their shop.
Just hung out.
Sounds
And
so
there was
cool.
there was a golf and stuff was the skate park.
Okay.
It was like mini golf and arcade with a skate park.
Oh, wow.
That was like left over from the 70s. Well, it was great. It was left over from the 70s, but then like as skateboarding was getting popular again, like we all started going there, and then that closed down sadly. But then there were tons of ramps and stuff. It seemed like a lot of backyard ramps. And
Yeah.
that thing.
Did the punk rock come in hand with the skateboarding?
Yeah, and it wasn't like it wasn't really like my thing. Like I grew up listening to like metal, and,
Yeah.
whatever, that type, more that kind of thing. But you just get exposed to it, and then like when I started playing in bands, like I was into like Hanoi Rocks and
Yeah.
buying old New York Dolls records and shit like that. But but there was no scene for that. So if you wanted to be in a band and go to a show, it was either going to be a punk rock show or it was going to be like a thrash metal show.
Yeah.
Those were like the shows that were kind of where local bands
Yeah.
would be.
Was there local punk bands from Santa Barbara?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I was in one of them for a minute called Rat Pack.
And I have my notes. Yeah, Rat Pack. We were talking about that yesterday.
Yeah, that was actually my first ever thing that I was on that got released. It was a Mystic Records 7-inch.
Mystic.
With Rat Pack. But no, the big local punk rock band in Santa Barbara was RKL.
RKL.
Rich Kids on LSD.
Yeah. Rich Kids on LSD. That's right.
But by the time I came along and was in junior high and high school age and going to shows and stuff, they had already moved away. I mean, you must know Chris that's in that's in Lightwagon.
So you were born in 71.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was RKL? Oh shit! They just played with us in Vegas. I think that was
No. That was D4.
Oh, DFL. My bad.
DFL. Sorry,
Okay,
DFL,
so RKO.
DFL.
Josh Brolin was in that band for a second.
For a minute.
Josh Brolin was in there.
You know what's wild? I always heard the legend of Josh Brolin. Josh Brolin was a fucking Cito rat and all this stuff, and and I always thought that those guys were just lying because he was famous and had technically lived there or whatever. But then I heard him interviewed on Mark Maron. He was talking about a lot of stuff. I was like, holy shit, that's real.
Man.
That's so crazy.
It's
Super
crazy.
legit.
Yeah.
Huge RKL fan.
Yeah.
7-inch and everything. Keep
You were?
laughing. Yeah. They had a comic book inside of their album, and it was great because it was a comic book with the lyrics. And it was the character, the main guy with the beanie. He was the main character. It was great.
I mean, Fat Mike, openly, at least used to talk about, that was basically, the template for what he kind of ultimately did with No Effects was you take RKL for the aggro, and you take Bad Religion for the melodies and the songs craft.
That makes total
sort of
sense.
Put that together, and that's the
Yeah.
Fat Record sound.
Wow.
Yeah, was RKO on Epitaph?
Eventually, but that was they had broken up and then got back together years later. Yeah, that original sort of version. I guess you would say the lifestyles of the rich kids on LSD. It was that was the
so
one.
good.
Yeah.
That was huge.
Yeah.
In my head, I was like, this is the best thing
And what did
ever.
Rat Pack sound like?
Rat Pack sounded like the first Rat Pack 7-inch I was not on. That was a few years before I was in that band. And it was just sounds like punk rock of the era.
Yeah.
It's pretty scrappy. Sounds like it was recorded in a tin can or whatever. Because it probably was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it was cool. And then the I don't know, I think it was maybe 4-song little 7-inch thing that we did was it was the way that punk rock started, the way that things were all kind of jumbled up. It was they were still a punk rock band, but they're clearly starting to listen to Guns N' Roses and shit like that. That was big getting big by then. That sort of influence. I remember there was a song called Ice Cream, Acid, and Cigarettes. And there was that. It had a rock and roll. It almost sounded like an old Kiss song or something.
And so were you in that band in high school, or was that?
Yeah, and that was basically what led to me not being in high school anymore.
I was going to ask you how you did in high school.
Not well.
Okay.
And that didn't help. That didn't help. But that it's funny that that was sort of the last straw of high school for me was we filmed a video. God, I wish I knew where that fucking footage was. I remember we filmed a video for some song, and I skipped school, and I was already so behind, and whatever. Then
were your parents tripping on your grades, or?
I mean, it's ridiculous to say, but both my brothers had already dropped out, and they were older than me. So I think by the time I came along, my mom had pretty much given up.
She didn't think third time's a charm?
Yeah, you know what I mean? As a parent now, I look back and think, how the fuck did you let 3 kids fucking run around? What the fuck were you doing? But you can't say that out loud. I hope my mom's not listening to this podcast.
So you dropped to what, 11th grade, or?
I went in 11th grade. I went to the Ding Dong version of high school for a semester, and then officially dropped out. And really, when I dropped out, it was because in 12th grade, that summer, they moved. It was called La Cuesta, and they moved that. The idea was you went to La Cuesta, you would get back up to speed. But it was just it was just that much easier to.
Oh, it's like a secondary school. Where you do everything faster.
Right.
I had to go to one of those.
Right.
I got your drift.
So that didn't work out, and then they moved that down to the actual campus of where I had gone to high school. But you were in these trailers at the bottom of the hill. And I remember the first day of fucking school, and it's my senior year kind of, and I'm keep all my friends peel off to their classes. I'm like walking down the hill to the trailer. I was just like, I'm not doing this. I just left. Fuck this. Yeah, my ego could not handle it. I was like, I'm not going to the trailer.
They're just gonna put those disruptive kids down in that trailer at the bottom of a hill.
Down the hill.
Well, that's the thing, dude. I wasn't even disruptive. I was just fucking lazy.
Yeah,
I wasn't fucking I wasn't like a violent. I wasn't like a criminal. I wasn't any of that shit. I was just lazy and like uninspired and totally undisciplined.
Jeez, it's just mind blowing. But I think they did that a lot in the U.S. Or just like, let's just put it over here.
Yeah, maybe no one will notice.
Yeah,
we'll get them off the ledger.
I remember that. Like they were doing that in a lot of places. Like, oh, they're in the basement down there.
Yeah. They call it like a secondary.
Yeah,
they try to come up with some crazy name. Just like, that's wrong, man.
Yeah. It didn't. It didn't work.
Yeah.
Were you working after that when you dropped out?
Did
you have a job? Or?
Yeah, kind of. Had a couple little like part-time jobs, but then when I dropped out, I pretty much just goofed around for a while.
Yeah.
I was like 17, and my mom was a probation officer and worked for the county. She's like, which makes her. She wasn't like a mean like hang 'em high probation officer, but she just for one reason like it wasn't like her life's goal to become a probation. She just fell into that, kind of thing. And so there was a period there when I had dropped out that for probably 6 or 8 months I just fucked around and just went to the beach every day and drank beer with my friends and whatever, just was not doing anything. And my mom one day right before my 18th birthday, I'll never forget, like sat me down and just goes, I know you're just like drinking beer every day with your friends. I can smell it on you. Like I know what you don't think I don't know what you're doing. And she goes, and you can't do this if you're not going to school. Like you have to have a job. So I got you a job at the probation department.
Oh shit!
So she was like, go see Linda Gardy on Monday, and she'll figure it out. And so she did, and that turned into like a really good thing.
Awesome.
Ultimately, because that was like May of 1989.
Okay.
Right. So, so I got that job and I saved and I started, I was like working full time. It's just like in the office. I wasn't a probation officer. I was just in the records room, which is kind of fun because I could read about all my friends. And through that, I saved up some money to buy a new amp and saved up enough money to move to LA. And then come that January, I moved to LA.
Wow.
That was that.
And to take it back for a second, were you in a band called the Lost Kittens when you were 14 years old?
Yes. Lost Kittens formed for my 9th grade my 9th grade talent show. Which was the first gig that I ever played.
Okay.
If you can call it a gig. And that was the first time I ever like played in front of a crowd of people. It was fun.
And what did the Lost Kittens sound like?
That version of it, we played Rock and Roll All Night and Strutter. So we did 2 Kiss songs,
Toby.
Okay, I don't know.
Although if you were to watch the footage, and I have, because our drummer at the time has it, and I digitized it, and it's really funny.
Wow.
But you cannot tell what it's just fucking cacophony. It's just insanity. But anyway, that was like the first gig, and then a version of that band. That band kind of went through, like it's high school, so every other week was a different member change or whatever. But we actually wound up. Keeping that together until, a couple of years after high school, whatever. And that was like the band we like moved to LA to try to like make it. We're like a rock and roll band, trying to be like, Guns N' Roses kind of thing, and kind of doing that.
And there was a guy from Sugar Cult in there?
Yeah, Marco.
Oh, Marco, I know Marco. Oh,
yeah,
awesome.
sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So then you moved to LA. Like, how old are you then? 18?
I was 18. Yeah.
Did you have a lot of friends out here?
In LA, no, none.
Wow.
None.
It was just to go to make it. Try to do something in music.
Yeah, because like back then, that's what you thought. Like you know, I grew up going to shows in L.A. And all the big shows, all the shows that you wanted to go to were always down in L.A. And there was like, the L.A. like rock scene was really strong. Yeah, like that was. It just seemed like,
especially right then. Yeah.
And it's funny because not too long after we moved down here, I remember all these bands got record deals out of Santa Barbara, and we were just like, what the fuck, man? We can't. We never got a record deal.
So you were hanging around that part on like Sunset Strip.
Oh yeah,
like the Viper Room.
But by the time I moved here, that was over.
Oh okay,
that had died. You know what I mean? That died in like the late 80s, but we
Crue
didn't know
era
it. So we moved here and we're like, whoa, what happened? Where'd the scene go, man?
But there was like a new wave of stuff coming in, like Jane's Addiction.
Ooh, yeah.
Well, Jane's Addiction had already had records out, and Chili Peppers and stuff. And those were the two, like, you know, in like you're talking about 1990, and this is sort of before like Nirvana and all that had really kicked open the alt rock thing.
Got it.
And LA was in such a weird place because all the bands were like either doing like that, like
Hair,
Chili Peppers, but more metal, like 24/7 Spies, like, you know, like a dude playing slap bass, but it's metal, and you know what I mean. That there was a lot of that thing, and a lot of weirdo like Jane's Addiction type
Fishbone.
stuff. But it wasn't. But there wasn't like a scene that was with like, because like in. You know, when you would go see bands, unsigned bands before that, like in the 80s, the clubs would always be packed. I don't know why. True. It just was. You know, there's just a strong show. There's a strong scene. But like by the time I moved down here, you're playing like Coconut Teaser on a fucking Tuesday night for a 20-minute set for a free taco night or whatever. You know what I mean? It was like that kind of shit all the time. You know, with a Monday night whiskey no bozo jam with like 800 bands and you know what I mean? Like like it was like that kind of shit. Or Pay to Play.
Oh yeah, Pay to Play. That was the shit back then.
Wow.
Yeah.
We'll go in the
Wait, that was a thing?
Oh yeah.
Pay to Play?
Yeah.
Hell yeah. That was a big deal, man. Or sell your own ticket. You get the tickets, you sell them, or
I was in a band that fell for that once. We're like, okay, you know, and it was actually to play Gazzari's of all places. Like, you just have to sell these 50 tickets, and you think 50 tickets, like that's easy. But then you're trying to get like 50 of your friends to buy tickets from you. Fuck that. And it was like,
God forbid,
I think we sold like 3.
Oh,
right? Yeah, exactly.
Imagine it was always a thing. Your friends always had to pay for a guest list.
Forget about it, bro.
Yeah, it's your whole career. Imagine
that. It would be done. Over.
That I tell you, that was the weirdest thing last summer. You know, when Foo started doing shows again in the spring, our show at the Forum was like kind of during the Delta uptick. Yeah. And I swear it was like the first time ever that I was like calling people going, hey, do you want to come tonight? Like nobody was reaching out to me. And like good old friends like, no, I'm good.
I'm good.
No.
That's a hard pass.
I'm all right.
I got a mean guest list.
I can't imagine your guest list must be crazy too, man. Fuck, man.
Under normal circumstances, yeah.
So when you moved to LA, is your brother in the band at the time too?
He
another band?
He wasn't in the band that I was in at that point, but we did play in a band together for a minute in like, when was it, like 1993, 94, around there. Yeah. Called Green Thumb.
Yes.
Yeah. That was probably the closest I ever came to like being in a band that got a record deal. Oh, like we had like A&R people came out, you know, like there was a little bit of that, but it never amounted to anything, you know.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Your brother played lead?
He was playing bass.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, my brother can play fucking anything. He's just a monster musician, and he's an amazing guitar player, like ripping. He taught me a lot on guitar, but you know, he plays bass in Face to Face, and was like, he's so good on bass because he actually plays bass. Like, he chose to play bass. He wasn't the guy that was just not very good on guitar. Oh, you just play bass because you're a pro. You know, he wasn't that guy. Like,
it happens a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of bass players like that. Like, come on, it's just one note, dude. You can do it. Like, my brother plays bass like a bassist.
Yeah, he kills
it. Yeah, he's really good.
So how long out here before No Use for a Name happens for you?
Well, okay, so I was living in LA for a while, for probably like 5 years or something, and playing in bands and doing that whole boogie woogie, and then moved up to San Francisco with Joey Cape, you know, singer for Lagwagon.
Yeah.
And that, you know, by that time they had put out a couple records on Fat Records.
Yep.
And there was if you rewind a little bit, like in like the whenever it was mid '80s somewhere. NoFX for a minute was in Santa Barbara all the time. I think like Eric Sandin lived there around that time or something, but they just seemed like they played there a lot. And that was like the first club show I ever played was in a band opening up for them.
Oh, okay.
And Rat Pack and fucking XL.
XL, wow.
Yeah. But so they were around. So I didn't know Fatty at that point really, but I knew who he was, you know. And then kind of knew him a little bit through Joey, because Joey knew him pretty well, and Lagwagon was on his label. So in around the beginning of '95, me and Joey moved up to San Francisco together, and Joey helped me get a job at Fat.
Oh, okay.
You know?
Wow. You're working there. Okay.
Yeah. So I wound up getting a job there for for a minute, and then No Use for a Name's guitar player bailed, and they needed a guy.
Perfect.
And they were like, they had a tour booked, and it was like one of those situations like, fuck, it's Thursday and we're leaving Monday and we need somebody to fucking do it,
Yeah. And that was the first time, because you weren't a big fan of that type of. You're more of like a rock guy, you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, by that time, that was like by that time, things had just evolved. Like I loved the turning point for me with punk rock and stuff was like Prison Bound and Suffer, those two records. So when those two records came out, then I started paying attention to that.
Yeah.
Even though really those weren't like the same exact strain of punk rock.
No,
really, you know what I mean?
But nobody mentions Prison Bound. I love that record,
dude.
man.
Yeah.
The Social D record.
Yeah.
More country vibe.
That record was a huge influence on me, and I loved it. And then
Suffer.
started, and Suffer, and Bad Religion had that epic streak right there where it just seemed like boom, boom, boom. It was like fucking Suffer, and then No Control, and then fucking
Against the Grain.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's just boom, 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 boom. And they were just making those great records and playing a lot, Great
melodies too.
Yeah,
great
melodies. So and just again through being around Joey and stuff and seeing Lagwagon go and everything. So I didn't know the guys in No Use personally, but I knew who they were. And it's funny because that was part of why I got hired at Fat, is because their record at that time was doing well, and that was part of the job. That was really the job that I got hired to do, was to call record stores and make sure they had it in stock.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And then a couple weeks into doing that, they walk into the Fat Records and go like, hey, we need a guitar player. And Fatty was like, put me up for the gig, and I got it. And
And that was your first time going overseas too?
Yeah, that came a little bit later, but that was the first time touring. Well, I toured once I went and roadied for Joe Sibb's band.
Okay.
A little before that.
What was his band called again?
It's called Wax.
That's right, Wax. That's right.
Yeah. But that was the first time I was ever in a band that toured was joining No Use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And probably going on a bus too for the first time.
Oh, we weren't in a bus.
Not in Europe?
Yeah. Well, in Europe,
Okay,
yeah. But we didn't tour Europe until
Later on,
97 because Tony didn't like to fly. And so that tour, it's an interesting thing. We didn't tour that much, especially relative to a lot of the other bands that were kind of around at that time, because we would tour every 6 months.
Okay.
It wasn't just all the time,
Yeah.
So then when I finally made a record with them, then on that tour we went to Europe and finally in a bus.
It's such a game changer going from a van to a bus, man.
Oh yeah.
Oh my.
That's a different tour. That is a different tour.
Just like your sleep, just everything, how important you realize.
Everything.
You don't realize how important sleep is on tour too in a bus.
Yeah, extremely important.
Damn. I remember the first time going to Europe too and doing that.
Oh yeah. I was like, these beers are free? That's what I remember that. I was like, so we can take these,
Wow.
How wild is that difference between touring Europe and touring here? We're here the club treats you like a fucking criminal.
Right.
You're lucky.
100%.
You get a fucking
100%.
warm 12-pack of Milwaukee's Best. You're fucking stoked. You know what I mean? You go over there and there's just crates and crates of beer and all the food. And
why is it like that?
I don't know.
No.
Why is that like that?
Respect for the artists.
That's so crazy.
I don't know.
Respect for artists.
What the fuck is wrong with you, America?
America, they had full
Respect
on
the
cameras
arts.
in the dressing rooms and places. It was like, damn.
Yeah.
I feel
It's serious criminal.
you feel way more appreciated when you go to Europe.
No, they have a
big time.
big
festival
appreciation.
catering, bro.
Oh,
What?
And loyal
great.
fans, by the way.
Loyal
fans. Yeah,
man.
It's a
buying
different
merch.
animal. Yeah.
A lot of merch.
It's so different, man.
Yeah.
It's a completely different
South
world.
America too, loyal fan, a
Yeah.
different kind of fan loyalty.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They stick with you.
No doubt.
Fuck. All right, so so where are we at now? Well, I think it's amazing is when we get to Foo Fighters, obviously, is that one of the reasons why, obviously, because your personality and your playing, but you had also opened up for Scream. Rat Pack opened up for Scream.
Yeah.
And Dave thought that was cool, your punk roots and all that stuff.
I remember in my audition, I mentioned that. I was like, do you remember playing at the Chinese restaurant on State Street in Santa Barbara? And he totally did, because he had and unbeknownst to me, the Scream had stayed at our drummer's house that night.
Shit.
I never knew that.
Okay.
And so there was this whole adventure that
Connection
he had.
there, yeah.
that was funny. So yeah, so that
I love Scream, man. Underrated band, dude.
Yeah.
Love them.
I got to see them with Dave back in the day.
We listen to them all the time.
Well, we listen to them all the time, man.
Solid, man. That changed my whole. It changed our whole drummer that at the time was playing in the hardcore band, and my drummer was like, "I'm only gonna use like one tom and minimize his set from like the whole metal thing because of Dave."
Oh,
well, you know what's wild about that's the thing that I remember the most about that show, and it's a funny thing like that there was a buzz on him even then.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
No doubt.
I remember the talk at that show was, dude, Scream's playing. You gotta fucking watch the drummer.
Yeah.
Wow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That buzz was huge. Our drummer was like, this. It was phenomenal. I mean,
our drummer, I remember, took a bunch of ecstasy at that gig, and literally hovered over Dave's back, like sweating on him, like just like high as a kite, like yeah, man. Like I wish I had photographs of that because I can like remember it in my mind. He was just like slobbering on Dave's back.
I think they didn't even headline the show that I saw. That they were opening for Agent Orange.
Oh wow!
And I went to see and I went to see Scream mostly because Agent Orange at that time it already kind of was like in their later Fire in the Rain.
Yeah.
Those
Enigma records. Those Enigma records. Yeah.
But now I kind of like it when I listen back.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, that was kind of cool. But when I was younger, I was just like,
That's not punk rock.
Do, man? What are they doing?
What album was that after? Was that Everything Turns Gray? What was that? That was the first one?
Yeah, that was
one of the skate compilations and shit.
Right. I can't remember.
It's almost like when
I can picture the album.
That was at the soundtrack to that Vision skate video.
Yes.
Was all that Agent Orange stuff.
You're right.
It's up to me and you, or whatever. All that
Everything
stuff.
Turns Gray.
Yeah.
But it's almost like when Uniform Choice came out, their second record. Stare into the sun too long, and then he started the band Mind Funk.
Yeah,
I
was still trying to hold on to it. I was
Remember
like,
that?
well, it's still there's some good songs.
It's funny. I actually that Enigma record is in Spotify. I was thinking about that. I listened to it recently.
Right.
And it's actually better than you remember.
That's
it's almost
cool
like
to hear.
it's almost like
Agent
sounds
Orange?
like they were and I don't know what they were into. I don't know those guys,
Right.
but it almost sounds like they were going for like a Paisley Underground thing or so.
Right,
You know, it
right.
sounds like it's almost like more like 60s pop or something.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's kind of cool.
Well, now I have definitely much more respect for bands and artists when they're evolving.
I was going to say that just now. Once you're in the band, you realize like you can't make the same record over and over again. Back then, I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah.
But I love the
changing.
when people turn their backs on 7 Seconds, I loved their melodic records. I love New Wind, Soul Force.
New Wind, I still was into it. I was still like, okay,
They
I'm
listened to
holding
U2,
on.
they grew their hair out. I was like, yes.
I don't know, but there were certain things like bands like Rush. I don't know if you're ever into Rush.
Sure, yeah.
And so I can, I love like the first like probably 7 albums. But then it got to a point where like
when it got to Power Windows, it was like it went too far.
Yeah, I was like, this is enough for me. I was like, it's
you know that one?
Yeah, I
it
know
lost,
very
it
well.
lost the edge. Yeah,
because it was
like,
just
fuck.
like, man, technology came into play, and you could tell that they were really getting into the
Diving into it.
Diving in. I was like, and then after that it was like, I don't know, that album, like, hold your fire, keep it burning bright. I was like, I am done with that.
But like Geddy even started singing in a lower register. Like even stuff like, it is funny how that stuff like you really like
hating
it.
on
Yeah,
it. I
you can't even just if a band added a keyboardist.
Yes.
I would be like, all right, fuck it, it's over. It's over. Which is funny now because like I love keys and
do
stuff.
too.
You know what I mean? Like, but at the time I was just like, what is that shit?
Yeah.
It is crazy the stuff you thought were cringy, but now you like it when you get older. You appreciate it more.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You just had to, I guess we just had to mature,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean,
They were. Let's go back and listen to those Rush records, guys. Come on. Let's give it
but
a
it's
chance.
funny when you like dive out of a band that you really like and then you get back into it.
Yeah.
Like when they do something new, you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
They're back.
Yeah.
Like I had that with Maiden. And it's weird because there's Maiden fans who are like, I'm diehard to the end, But I don't know. There was like that Caught Somewhere in Time. And that album came out. I was like, I am fully back into Maiden.
Really?
Like,
Oh wow.
yeah. It was
lost
like,
you for a minute.
It lost me for a minute for sure. But they had like a great video for it and everything. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
We're doing it again.
I think that Van Halen, when they got back together with David Lee Roth, was like one of the rare examples of a band like actually doing something good again.
What album?
You know, what was it called? It was a few years ago. You know, it was when David Earl first came. Yeah. Because I think so the story goes that they took old like songs that they from back in the day that maybe didn't make it on records and sort of like reworked them or whatever.
Did you not like the Hagar era?
I was not a fan. Of that era, but you know, at that time I was like, I wasn't listening to anything like that. You know what I mean? There's so much like kind of getting to what you're talking to. Like, I was so opinionated growing up musically that I would take hard turns. Right. I'd be so fucking into this thing, and then discover some other thing, and it'd be like, fuck that thing that I was into, and I'm only into this thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like by the time like the mid '80s, it's funny like I just stopped listening to all that stuff. Like none of the stuff that I listened to in 1984. By 1986, I wasn't listening to any of, like literally any of it. So missed all that stuff. Right. You know? So yeah.
And then when you find punk, you're like, I'm too punk. I don't listen to anything else but punk.
Yep. Yeah.
I have my blinders on for a second. Like skateboarding and punk only. No radio. No rock. You know.
There was a funny period in that time when I first moved to LA. And like when alt rock got really big, where that seemed like a really like a meaningful distinction where you didn't want to admit out loud.
Like a Goo Goo Dolls?
Like 3 years ago, you were listening to fucking, you know what, so like LA Guns or something.
Okay.
You know? It was like, you know, you couldn't say that shit out. Like it felt like it meant something. You know what I mean?
Did you like
Which is funny now.
Do you like Smashing Pumpkins, like the whole era too? Soundgarden.
I mean, I liked a lot of the stuff that was on the radio, I guess, around that time. But that was the moment that I was diving deeper and deeper into like NoFX land. And, so I wasn't really into that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so I don't know. To me, like, whatever. It's all you can look back on it and all. Like, there's good songs. You know, all kinds of bands had good songs. But like, I think having grown up listening to rock music all through the '80s and everything, that like alt rock wasn't enough of a break to me. For the, you know what I mean? That's kind of what I'm talking about. Like all of a sudden, it's like that was like mainstream, and it just sounded like heavy metal, but wasn't singing about chicks or whatever. You know what I mean? Like it just was like I don't know. I just wanted to be listening to stuff because I was also listening to like all the English stuff and all the British stuff, you know, and even like some of that early tech. I don't know. I just kind of like went that way. Listening to like Stone Roses or NoFX or you know or fucking you know like
how about Oasis?
I loved them. Fuck yeah.
That's his favorite band in the whole world.
Yeah.
That's his favorite band in the whole world.
Yeah,
Stone Roses are great too, though.
Yeah.
How about Blur? No.
Loved them.
Yeah,
I loved them. Yeah, I loved all that stuff.
Yeah.
You know.
We always have our debates with Chappelle about Blur versus Oasis or Coldplay versus Oasis. Are you a Coldplay fan?
Yeah, I mean, they got some great songs. Yeah, you know, sure.
That's my band.
Yeah.
So you only know he's from.
I'm too old, and I'm not a fan of anything anymore. Right. You know what I mean? Just casually like stuff as it drifts by. You know.
No, it's true.
You're like, oh, that's nice.
So did you only do 2 records with Noise for a Name?
I did. Yeah. And
you toured with them for a couple years, and then
I was in the Noise for about 4.5 years, and that was in parallel with when we started doing the Gimme Gimme stuff.
Yeah,
at that time wasn't a touring thing.
Yeah,
you know. Yeah, so.
But you were a big part of the writing process, or how did that work?
With No Use?
Yeah,
not really. I mean, Tony really wrote all those songs.
Okay,
and then we would kind of like arrange them together, you know, with everybody, you know, with Rory and Matt too.
Yeah.
But no, that was really, those were Tony's songs. Okay. Yeah, really.
And then Me First, that's just super fun, just like in.
Yeah, it was just goofy.
But they did a lot of records though, which is crazy, man.
A lot of records. Yeah.
You want a lot of records of them.
Yeah. And there's a ton.
And you toured with them a bunch.
I didn't tour with them much.
Okay.
Yeah, I my brother did a lot of touring with them. I don't know if he's still doing that or not, but yeah, once it started turning into an actual touring thing, I was already in Foo Fighters.
Okay.
So I was just, you know, out doing that.
And so how does that audition come about with Foo Fighters?
And what year was that?
That was the summer of '99.
Okay. And I was about to drop it, but you I know it like
he knows.
Well, okay.
Massive Foo Fighters head right here.
So check it out. So you know where I was when I got the call? I was fucking in New York City.
Oh shit.
We had just made a No Use for a Name record. We were about to go on tour.
Okay.
So I went out. This was when John Bush was living out there. And I think Max had moved out there maybe by then.
John Bush.
I think Max.
Yeah, he ran Niagara. You know him. He's a Cali cat.
Yeah, you'd know him if you saw him.
You definitely know him. He ran the clubs
I'm
out
thinking
there.
of like a John Bush that was.
You're thinking the singer for Armored Saint.
Yes.
Yes. Or in Anthrax.
Yeah.
Not that John Bush.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, but you were working door at all those places. You definitely know John Bush.
I'm pretty sure I did. That's why I was like.
You were at the beauty
Bush.
bar. You had all the spots.
Okay.
He was at Niagara about 7A.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So John was staying with Ethan.
Ethan.
You know Ethan Minsker.
Yeah, of course.
He did our documentary.
Yeah.
Chappelle. He did a home video. Yeah.
Ethan's a homie.
So I went out there and I was crashing on, like, I think John was Ethan's guest already, and then I was the guest of the guest. So I was like, sleeping in like on the floor with a Rottweiler, you know.
And that was Avenue B too. That was like when it was sketchy out there.
Yes. So and just hanging out, and I was friends already with like with Johnny T and all that crew, and like Max.
Clowns of Progress.
All those guys.
They own Niagara, bro. That's a spot.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I got a phone call from Gus, our tour manager. I
know Gus. Yeah.
Foo Fighters tour manager.
Yeah.
Saying, hey, it's Gus from Foo Fighters. We're having auditions next week. Do you want to come audition? I was, fuck, yes, I do.
Were you a fan of the band before?
Oh, yeah. Big time. Foo Fighters was the band. I mean, I've said this before, but Foo Fighters honestly was the band that every time No Use for Name was getting ready to go on tour, and we'd bug our booking agent, like, dude, you got to get us some Foo Fighter dates. Like, like you put together your dream list of like who you could get, and that would always be Foo Fighters.
Okay.
We loved them. So that's that was.
Were you also throwing a Guns N' Roses audition?
It's in my notes too, homie.
Yeah. So the real story of that was the way that I got the Foo Fighters audition was my friend Bill. You probably know Bill from Side One Dummy.
Yeah.
Joseph's partner over there.
Uh-huh.
Bill called me at the beginning of that summer and said, "Hey, I think I could get you a Guns N' Roses audition." And this is 1999. This is not like the Guns N' Roses this is not Slash and Duff and Izzy. This is like Axl making Chinese Democracy for 100 years or whatever, that thing was, right? So I went and I always try to clear this up. I was never offered the job in Guns N' Roses. I never auditioned for them. It was just my friend said, I think I could get you. I know it's somebody that's involved in that thing, whatever. And I said, hey, I heard that Foo Fighters guitar player just quit. Can you see if you get me an audition with those? Maybe they're looking for a guitar player. So he goes, I know a lawyer that works with them, kind of thing. And so he wound up getting my name thrown in the hat. And then a couple months later go by, and I'm out in New York, and I'm fucking around. I get that phone call from Gus, and I get off the phone with him, and I'm like, oh my god, fucking. And I go to John. I say to John, I go, dude, I'm gonna fly home to like tomorrow. I was like, that was my next call, to like get on the next flight home.
Wow.
To go, learn. I had to like learn the songs and then go audition or whatever. So, dude, I think I'm gonna audition for the Foo Fighters. And he goes, dude, my fucking birthday party's tomorrow. What are you talking about?
Oh, shit.
I was like, what? I gotta go. Fuck.
That's a big deal. Wow.
So I missed his birthday party, but I got the gig.
What songs did they have you audition?
Yeah, that's a good question.
They sent me, and I'm sure I have it somewhere, they sent me a cassette tape that had a song off the first record, a song off the second record, a song off the third record that wasn't out yet, so I'd never heard that one. That was the song called Aurora. That's cool. I don't remember what the other two songs were. And then they also sent me a song from the Godzilla soundtrack that was like a weird, like, it was not a typical Foo Fighter. I think they were like trying to throw a wrench in there. It's like, let's see if these motherfuckers can figure that shit out.
Right.
Damn, I was going to try to guess one of the songs.
Go ahead, man.
Off the first record?
Yeah.
Was it Alone and Easy Target?
I don't feel like it was. I feel like it was either I'll Stick Around or...
I'll Stick Around. It was I'll Stick Around.
It was probably that.
Right?
Yeah.
We call him Deep Dive Lacey.
I do a lot of deep dives.
Yeah. It probably would have been that.
Yeah.
And I don't remember.
It was I'll Stick Around.
And it was probably like Monkey Wrench or Everlong or Monkey or one of those songs from the second. But I don't remember.
Yeah.
But so yeah, like, and that's where the No Use for a Name thing really like had an impact on that audition, because it was the exact same situation. Where I had to learn a bunch of songs and go jump into an audition with a bunch of guys I didn't know.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I flew home from New York, and I just sat in my bedroom for a week, because it was like a week until the audition.
Holy shit.
And I lived in San Francisco at that point, so I just sat in my bedroom and I just played along with those first two records and just tried to learn as many as I could, and then went down and auditioned, and then came back a week later for like a second longer audition.
There wasn't like anybody walking in or walking out as you're walking in.
No,
Was it
there
that
absolutely
scenario?
was. Oh no, there absolutely
My
was.
brother had
no,
that too.
I pulled up and I'm like terminally early.
Right.
So I show up like 15 minutes
Oh, no, were you
early, like
nervous?
with my guitar and everything.
Right. Yeah.
And I can hear, and it was out at Mates out in the valley, and I can hear them playing music. And I'm like, oh fuck, you know, they're in the middle of an audition.
Right.
And then the music stops and it's like quiet for what felt like a very long time, and I was
Right.
just sitting there like, oh, this fucking guy got the gig, you know.
Right.
Were you super nervous? Or you chill?
So nervous,
Okay.
yeah. And then the guy came out, and we kind of, you know.
Was it anybody that you knew or no?
No, I was like, that guy didn't get the gig. For sure. I didn't know that I got the gig, but I knew that he wasn't the gig.
Oh, got it.
But they told me funny stories, man. Like some dude like showed up to the audition and had like forgot the key to his guitar case lock, and could, like, I'll come back, or you know, like some guy showed up and like learned the songs all in like the wrong tunings and shit. There's some funny shit happened that like you definitely feel like,
That's sad.
dude, I'm glad I prepared.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the best lesson for any musician out there, dude. You can't be too prepared, because it's so common in rock and roll, and especially in LA. Like people do that thing where they're like, you know, show up for the gig and they don't really know the songs. You know? I listened to it on the way over. What, you know, kind of thing. Dude, that ain't the same as fucking knowing the song, dude.
Hell no.
You gotta know the song.
That's crazy.
Like you should be able to play the song like it's a show.
Absolutely.
At the audition.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like if you want the gig.
Yeah.
So you walk in, everybody's standing in there, and then you plug your shit in, and they call off a song or something.
Yeah,
No,
we played through those 4 songs and maybe
Yeah.
played a couple other ones, and then we just kind of sat there and talked for a little bit. I mean, I think the whole thing was probably quick, like an hour or something.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a long.
Did you feel good about it when you went to
When
the
I
songs?
left, I felt great about it. I was like, you know,
Yeah.
I didn't feel cocky, like, oh,
Yeah.
I fucking nailed that or whatever. I got the gig.
You were at least
You know,
happy.
but
you
I
were
was
at
that
least happy
dude.
with
Yeah, I was
yourself.
like, you know, I didn't fall on my face.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know what I
Right.
mean? And they seemed cool, and we had a nice little chit chat, and it was like cool. You know, the vibe was
Yeah.
cool. You
And
know?
then how long did you wait for how long the second one happened after
It
that?
was about a week later. Yeah.
And
Oh,
during-
second audition.
Second audition. Yeah.
And what happened
That's
there?
a great sign.
Different songs or?
A lot more songs.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, between the first audition and the second audition, I just went back to my house. I just fucking sat there and played those songs, and just like I could play pretty much any song off the first 2 records, you know, by the time. And we played a lot of them. And then at the end of that audition, Dave was like, "Hey man, come by the hotel, you know, come have a couple of beers or whatever, and I'll play you the new record or whatever." And I was like, "Oh,
Wow.
that's a good sign."
Yeah,
Oh,
that's a
we
very
went-
good sign.
And they were all there, and we went and drank beers at the hotel bar, and he played me some songs, and then at the end of the night, I remember he was like, "All right, dude, I'm gonna go to bed. You know, I'll give you a call tomorrow or whatever. You know, let's get together and we'll strum through some songs or whatever." And I was like, and by that time I had a few beers. And I was like, "Did I get the gig?" Nobody had said anything yet.
What's going on here?
Yeah. And he was like, it's funny, like knowing Dave the way I know him now. It's funny to think about that moment, because I totally put him on the spot, you know. But he was like, he said something like, "I'll call you tomorrow. You should be stoked. We have to have like a conversation. You know, we have to kind of talk about it, but you should be stoked." I was like, "What the fuck does that mean?"
Yeah.
Why can't you just tell me?
Yeah. And then they called me the next day and were like, "Dude, you got the gig. You know, come to rehearsal
Fucking
tomorrow."
life changing.
Yeah,
That's just
totally.
crazy. Bro.
What was that fucking feeling like when you
bro.
got that call?
Dude, I had been sitting. I sat there. I was staying. I was staying at Bill's house from Side One, right?
Yeah.
Because I didn't live in LA at the time, so I was just like crashed on his couch, and we sat there all day. I remember like I read like the fucking New York Times from cover to cover, slept, like woke up, slept, ate, you know, just like sat there all day. Finally, phone rings. Fucking like woo, and we put the phone down. We just like immediately ordered a bunch of food and beer. Yeah, just got fucking wrecked. So and I remember just being like super hungover the next day.
Does Dave call you, or is the manager calls you or something?
It was Dave and Taylor.
Wow,
okay.
Yeah.
dude.
So yeah, it was pretty exciting, no doubt.
Fuck, man. And then
Yeah.
the rest is history, bro. Holy shit.
We really like jumped into it because like they had
a tour, right, or something?
They had a tour, but like you know this was like one of the key differences like between where I had been, and then what I was jumping into was they were putting out an album that the album wasn't out yet, so we're going on a promo tour. I mean, I never heard of a promo tour. You know? We didn't do promo in No Use for a Name. You know what I mean? Maybe talk to some kid with a fanzine at the gig or whatever. But so there was that, like, and we had a few rehearsals and then did like a sneaky show at the Troubadour.
Ooh,
and then they went and filmed that Learn to Fly video, and I drove home and got my shit, and then came back and we left for tour, and then that was it.
Damn, that's been intense playing those songs live. You know, like in front of an okay, now we're not practicing.
Yeah,
just that feedback from people. I mean,
and it was nuts too, because I remember we went back east and I think the first place we went to was Rhode Island to play at the Gravity Games, which is like a short-lived competitor to the X Games or whatever. It was like NBC's version of the X Games.
It was a snow, like a winter type thing that you played?
Well, no, that one wasn't. They did that.
You know, it's like
I know what you're talking about, but that wasn't it.
That wasn't it. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
it was. But it was.
Sorry, I've seen a lot.
Because that would have been in like August or September or something.
Oh,
it was August of that year. So, but it was. I remember we played this gig that was like. It was like Busta Rhymes, Kid Rock, us, and probably, a bunch of other people and stuff in like some like hockey arena in Providence. And then the next night, maybe the night before, the night after, we played Lupo's. It was like, then that Lupo's was the first like real Foo Fighters show that I did. It was like a Foo Fighters show.
So was
Lupo's is small. That's for them. That's small.
So was your first tour the tour where the amps were hanging?
Yeah. Yeah,
that was your first tour.
Yeah, that's that cycle. Yeah, that was for we got that. That was sort of towards the end of that cycle.
Okay.
When we brought out when we did like
you brought out Earl from Bad Brains.
Yes. Okay, were you at that show here in LA?
No, I wasn't at the show.
Oh, okay.
I just know
he's a deep diver, man. He's a big fan, dude.
Because on that tour, because we did a bunch of stuff.
And also that guitar that Dave played on that tour. I think he donated it to the Museum of Music in Seattle.
Well, shit, man. We need to give you a job as a Foo Fighter musicologist.
Foo Fighters historian.
You know more than I do. I didn't know that.
I told you, man. He knows his shit.
We covered a lot of ground. That first tour cycle was amazing. Like, we did a bunch of stuff in Europe and toured with like, the Helicopters. Got to know those guys.
Helicopters.
Oh, okay, yeah.
We did Big Day Out in Australia. That was fucking insane. With Joe Strummer was on it when that first Mescaleros record came out.
Legend.
And Primal Scream was on that, and like all these cool bands. Like, but then we toured a bunch with the Chili Peppers in the States, and then did our own shows. Like we were.
So when you joined, Learn to Fly wasn't out yet.
It wasn't out yet, but it was out soon.
The song was out, but not the video.
It was like I remember it was the week that I joined. They made that video, so I don't know if the single might have been out like on the radio or something.
Breakouts on that. It's such a ill record, dude. Holy fuck, man. So you're going from like touring in a van, no days off, shitty backstages, and then you're fucking probably flying. They probably fly private at some point.
Not at that point. But yeah, it went like like some
first
of the things
class,
that were different were like flying first class was fucking wild. You know? I just wouldn't sleep on those flights. I'd be like, can I get another chocolate chip cookie over here?
It's so cool.
It's all excited.
But like also like having your own hotel room was a trip.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's my brother said when he joined Offspring. He's like, I got my hotel room. Like,
it's like that's weird, right? You know,
is that not a
not having to like
now we're in a struggling
I'm
band.
a
not on a No Use for a Name
Yeah.
tour. It was like 3 to a bed.
Dude, there was a point my brother Todd's like, yo, I'm going to quit the band if I have to share a bed with another grown man. Because we'd split 4 people in one room, bro.
Yeah.
Oh, you would?
Yeah.
I was like
that.
that.
Yeah.
Really?
I remember we would do like it would always be me, Tony, and Matt in a room together, and so it was always like 2 beds, and like you were always wanting to be the guy that was just alone in a bed. You know what I mean? Depending on and I was always the last one back to the room, so it was never me.
Oh wow!
You'd always be the guy ruining some other dude's sleep.
So yeah, now you have your own room, first class. Fuck, man.
Also, like not having to fucking hump your own gear. That was like that was hard to wrap your head around. Like I just give this guy my guitar and he hands it back to me tuned up. What the fuck? Yeah.
Damn, dude.
Yeah.
So what was the first big show? Because Lupo's is like a couple thousand maybe, but like the first like outdoor. You remember what it was? You might know Chappelle.
I know. I'm trying to think.
The first big fucking like.
I feel like the first whole kind of run of things that we did were all you go on this long promo tour where you're playing like underplays in clubs. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff, and like playing on TV for the first time, all that kind of weird shit. But I feel like the first big shows would have been Big Day Out down in Australia, because that was like big, festival.
2000 or 99?
That was 2000.
2000.
The very beginning of 2000.
That shit's huge, dude.
Yeah.
Dave still had long hair.
It wasn't that long yet. We did it. We did that a couple of times. So there's probably footage of him with longer hair from a few years later.
Then there was a show you guys did. Oh gosh.
No, it's funny to look at the Big Day Out and all the festivals from that era, because like we're on at like 4 o'clock. It's like daylight.
Wow.
Me and Nate will be in shorts. Like I still look like I'm on the Warped Tour at that point. Like it had, like the transition hadn't been completed yet. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah, it's funny.
Yep.
Like my shirt might be off, like like doing like an Eric Melvin jump.
So, how was your family and your friends and your brothers? Were they like so excited? Like, was it?
Yeah. The first show that I ever played with them was here at the Troubadour, and it was like I'd been in the band less than a week, and all my friends came down. My brother came. My brother Scott. I don't remember if Mike came, but Scott was there. Fat Mike happened to be in town. He brought his fucking mom.
Wow.
You know what I mean? It was shit like that. Like it was. I just remember like after that, like of course like Joe and Bill and I remember those guys when I first joined Foo Fighters. They would give me a hard time, like, why do you always have the most people on the guest list? Like everywhere we go, it's like everybody you ever met on a No Use for a Name tour comes out. You know what I mean?
And there's probably people in high school like, oh my god, I went to high school. The guy's in the Foo Fighters now. Like they knew you in the punk rock days or something. Now they see you in a different dimension.
Yeah.
Fuck,
that's cool.
It's gotta be like and so you're in the Foo Fighters. You're going on tour, and where are you living? You're living in. LA,
I was living in San Francisco by that time. But after
I could live anywhere.
Well, yeah, and so it was a trip because like Nate lived in Seattle, Taylor lived in L.A., Dave lived at that time in Virginia.
Oh shit, that's
so he was out there, and around that time, Dave. I don't remember who moved first, but I moved from San Francisco, like the beginning of 2000, I think, out to New York.
Wow. Lived in New York.
And moved in with do you know Catherine Lyons? You probably know Catherine Lyons.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, she used to have Rookie skateboards.
Yes.
Yeah. So
you moved in with her when you were in the Foo Fighters?
Yeah,
okay.
because I don't know if you ever went to that apartment. Catherine had this apartment up in Chelsea that was like she'd had it I think since college, and the rent was crazy cheap.
Okay.
And it was just like it was just a constant turnover of roommates in that place. So I was one of them for a minute or for a couple of years. And Max was already moved in there. Max from Swingin' Utters. And
it's crazy you went to New York like in that.
Yeah. Well, I'd always wanted to move out there, and then like two of my closest friends in San Francisco were Max and John.
Yeah.
And then they moved out. Sort of one right after the other, and then it's like then I joined the Foo Fighters, and then me and my girlfriend broke up, and it was sort of like I needed like my friends around, you know what I mean? And all of a sudden San Francisco just kind of got a little lonely, so I moved out there. Like I always say, like I didn't move out to New York soon enough.
Gotcha.
I wish I had moved out there a few years prior to that, because it's New York's a lot of fun.
Amazing,
But I moved out to New York, and then my wife, maybe a year later, my wife and I started dating, and she was already out there. And then we got pretty domestic pretty quick, and then moved back to the West Coast.
Back to the West Coast.
Like a couple of months after 9/11, basically.
Okay.
So I wasn't in. Looking back, I feel like I wasn't in New York quite long enough.
Yeah.
I
moved back here I moved here in 2001, a couple months before 9/11. That was pretty crazy.
Yeah, I was already in
Brazil then, right?
Yeah, but I was dating somebody that was from Queens.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I was always in. She was from Queens, but I was always in Brooklyn. Yeah.
So you were in New York during 9/11?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Like my wife was worked at 17 magazine at that time, and so we every morning we would like get up. She wasn't my wife yet. We were living together, so we would get up and she'd be like making coffee, and she'd have like the Today Show on or whatever, and just it's New York. It's like it's just a one-room apartment kind of thing, and so I remember that morning just sitting there, TV was on, drinking coffee, and then they cut to whoa, I remember they first said like a Cessna flew into one of the towers or something. I think it was what was first reported, and then the second one hit, and you're like, whoa,
okay,
this is
I thought
this
was
is
like,
this is something different.
Like,
you know,
this is different. Yeah. This is.
So then you audited pretty soon after that. Yeah.
Not too long. I mean, you know, like that was the. It just coincidentally that same week my wife lost her job. Like in magazine world, when they bring in a new editor, oftentimes everybody gets fired. That person brings their new team in. So that happened at 17 magazine. The editor got let go and they brought in somebody else, and my wife wound up losing her job. And so we had already kind of been toying with the idea of moving back. She's from Santa Barbara too, so
nice.
And her her family's out here too, and so it just felt like the right time. But yeah, it would have been fun to have a couple more years out there. And she had really, like, she lived there for a long time, like basically straight out of college.
Yeah.
And so she was like, she knew a side of New York that I had no clue about. So like when I started dating my wife, all of a sudden, because the New York that I knew was like, being at fucking Niagara till 7 a.m. or whatever with the doors locked, you know what I mean? And I didn't know much else about New York.
With the doors locked.
But she turned me on to like, to great restaurants and taking me to museums and just other parts of the city.
Took you uptown maybe.
Yeah, and all that stuff.
Central Park.
Right. So that was cool,
How did you guys meet each other?
Well, I've known my wife since junior high.
Oh, wow.
But we weren't like romantic back then, you know what I mean? But we ran into each other that Christmas 2000 back home. And so she was visiting her family, I was visiting mine, and we kind of did that thing like, oh, you live in New York? I live in New York.
Oh, shit.
And she actually at that time lived on the same block as Niagara. I was like, that's so crazy that I've never seen you. Like, I'm fucking there like every night.
She's waking up and you're going home.
Exactly.
That's fucking crazy since junior high. That's amazing, man.
Yeah. So then and that was cool because that was like, just it'd been enough of a gap there from when I was from living in Santa Barbara, to be with somebody that spoke the same shorthand.
Right.
It was like that really brought us together, especially when you're far away. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So when you go back and your life goes pretty fast, you start touring. Is it your life totally changes pretty fast?
Yeah.
With the album comes out, the record fucking goes crazy.
Yeah. I mean, like
you're on tour for that.
Yeah, we worked a lot. It seemed like it just was kind of off to the races. Yeah, one thing after another.
So many shows, so many tours, and
so once you're in the band, did you ever like come up to the guys like Dave, like, yo, I got this riff, man. Check it out.
Yeah, how soon did you do that?
Yeah. When we like, hey, check this out.
Like how?
Well, you know what's funny is
he just did it.
I knew before it, like I mean, you probably remember like when that first record came out, the first Foo Fighter record, you knew that it was just Dave on it, like that he had done that all by himself. So by the time I joined the band, my assumption was that it was just Dave's band. You know what I mean? That I knew that, and I'd been in bands. I know like there's usually like a songwriter, and all that thing. And I think that's part of like kind of the longevity maybe of this band is that's not, and like nobody in the band's bugging him with their demo. Right. You know what I mean? Really never has. You know what I mean? Like, so it just sort of removes that thing because that can be a tense thing in bands. Like, fuck, we gotta,
absolutely,
we got to do that motherfucker song too.
I also thought it was interesting you would talk about because obviously Dave still loved Pat Smear.
Yeah,
and you always felt like there would be a possibility that Pat could come in, and
And when he,
what was that feeling?
Yeah, it's so funny to look back at now how I felt because I did feel a lot of like anxiety about that. At that time because I didn't know Pat. Mm-hmm. That's the thing you got to remember. Like I'd met him a couple of times. But I didn't know him. So in my mind, and like my kids I only had 2 kids then, and I was like newly married, had a family. Like I felt threatened, like, for my livelihood.
Yeah,
because in my mind, I thought, here, this guy's coming to take my gig.
Yeah, because you're like,
and these guys are just going to be nice for a minute, but eventually this is going to lead to me being the one that goes with. That's what I thought.
Yeah,
it's a lot of stress.
Which is a lot of stress. And then that pretty much went away like the day that Pat came back, because once I got to know him, and
connect with him.
Yeah,
and stuff,
connect with I love Pat to death.
Yeah.
And but now I can't imagine the band without him. You know what I mean? But at the time, it felt like fuck. This means I'm probably gonna fucking get fired or some shit.
Now, so then, going past that, did you feel like oh, I am in the Foo Fighters? Like after meeting Pat and because getting rid of that feeling, I guess.
Yeah, because also we're just different types of guitar players, and we're not stepping on each other's toes.
Yeah.
We're not competing for the same space within the band.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And the band has evolved so much since then. That was an interesting time because the band had been 4 people, and there had been a turnover of. In my position.
Right.
Yeah.
Quite a bit. That seemed like the loose position.
Right.
Yeah. Was that 08 when he
That
came?
was 06.
06?
06,
Okay.
yeah. So when he came back, he actually came back for that acoustic tour, and that was all of a sudden we went from 4 people to 8 people on that tour. We had, cello and keys. That was when Rami came in, who's still with us too. And Taylor's friend Drew was playing some percussion and stuff, and Pat, and so all of a sudden it went from 4 people to 8 people for a while, but that wasn't permanent. And then, but it's sort of for a while there, it was then we did a hybrid sort of version of that, of touring for the next record, with some songs would have 8 people on it, some songs would have 6 people, some songs, it was just
100%.
We'd kind of shift around. And then even now, we have 3 backup singers or whatever that so it's it's just sort of it expands and contracts and changes over time.
Yeah,
based
I saw
on
that
sort of where the band is at, what the band needs for the live.
I saw the backup singers recently. I want to say 2019 in Columbus at the Sonic Temple Festival.
Oh,
it was the first time I saw the backup
that day
singers.
that it almost didn't happen.
Yeah, almost didn't happen. It was rainy out, and then you brought Pauly Shore up on stage. And stuff. Yeah. I was there. What? Listen. Okay. Listen. Here's a funny thing. It's a tie between Foo Fighters and GBH for the bands I've seen the most.
Oh shit! Wow.
Yeah.
I bet that you're the one guy on earth that can say that.
Absolutely.
There's nobody else. Yeah, there's a club of one.
Dude, that's so. You know what? And Dave too would probably appreciate that.
Yeah,
the
100%. Look at him in the Everlong video.
Yeah,
it's he's just straight up like a GBH.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But
that's crazy.
It's always neck and neck. I'll see you guys,
funny.
then I'll see GBH. I think it's been 6 times for both bands. Yeah, you guys hold the tie together.
Epic.
I started chewing gum on stage because a girl for my voice and stuff.
Right.
And it's different because I run around, I jump in the crowd. So a couple of times I've almost choked on it. I spit it in somebody's hair in Boston.
Yeah.
He chills, but I saw an interview talking about how it's good for your singing.
Yeah.
He still does that, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Totally. Yeah.
It's
I think
smart.
he thinks it keeps his voice kind of lubricated or whatever. Yeah.
Whatever works
I
best
feel like
for
he
you.
did. I feel like he spit it in his own hair
I'm
one
sure.
time.
No, it makes sense that he says that because I remember the first time I ever tried it was the first time I ever went on a hike, and I never got I never felt like I needed a drink or anything.
Throat.
Yeah. It was the first time I ever went on a hike. So I was like, oh.
Was trying that.
Yeah.
There's something to it.
Any
There's
vocal
something
coach
to
would
it.
be like, that's absolutely not. That is, no.
But then again, any vocal
no.
coach would say that about just about anybody in a punk rock band, the way they sing, or anybody in a rock band.
Very,
You know what I mean?
true.
Yeah.
So is Dave still one of the main writers of the songs?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Oh, Dave is. Okay.
I mean, it's definitely making records has changed over the years, and I feel like even just every record is maybe a little different as far as the dynamic in the studio and everything. It's definitely changed and gotten, I feel like, more relaxed over the years.
Right.
Whereas maybe some of that was probably just me trying to find my footing in the early days and not knowing what to do or what was expected of me or whatever, and wanting to be a part of it, and it's falling on your face sometimes.
Yeah. Did you ever present a riff to them?
I remember. Well, it's so funny that you asked, because there was one time I remember what sort of towards the end of that first tour cycle, and I remember Dave said, "Hey man, if you guys have any song ideas, send them to him." And I was like, "Really?" And I was like, I think I was the guy that was dumb enough to do it. Well, here you go, buddy.
And
And I recorded a couple things. I sent him something, and I remember him going like, dude, that one thing I fucking love. Let's fucking record that. And then And then he never brought it up again.
Okay.
That's so funny.
And I wasn't gonna be like, hey, what about my riff, bro? You know what I mean?
And that was the last time you submitted a riff.
The last time. Yeah, that was like in like November of 2000.
Yeah. I can laugh a lot about that.
Did you try to give a riff to Sepultura?
Oh yeah. When I first joined the band, I was like, I didn't really play guitar, you know. It's like I played guitar in the band I was in before, out of desperation of wanting to keep music going.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm gonna get a guitar, I'm gonna get a 4-track, I'm just gonna play these songs. So when I joined the band, they're like, yeah, we're looking for a guy who can sing and play guitar, and I was like, you know, I can do this. I was really like practicing, but I wasn't like a guitarist, you know. I was like, I can play along and do this. But when I went in for the first few albums, it was not playing in the studio or anything, but playing live some songs. And it's just like our guitarist is like, hey, Andre's just like, yo, he's like, if you have, you know, some ideas, we're totally open, you know. And I was like, well, I got this, you know, like got my 4-track tape out. Pretty much, like kind of in that vein of like, you know, something really simple. And it's just like, oh man. And then it just became an ongoing joke. Like, what about that riff you had? every album cycle, like, oh, you got some more ideas? That same riff. And I was like, and then one time he was like, I think we can use it.
Oh,
like,
no
he
shit.
wrote that part like in a song, like he put it together.
It's in the song
somehow.
now?
Yeah, I had to figure out. I was like, what song was it?
I gotta figure that out.
I was like, that riff. Yeah, there it is. Like it was the joke for the longest time.
I want my publishing credit, motherfucker.
But it's funny. Yeah, like now I would never think about. I mean, it's just like, come on.
I mean, you know, you got to understand, too, like, Dave is never a guy that's like, it's not like he's like, I only got 2 song ideas for this new record, fellas. Sorry. Like, he's always got, like, his a lot of ideas.
And when you guys record, are you recording live or no?
Not so much. You know, usually, probably more often than not, Dave will track with Taylor to get the drum take, and then we all kind of add stuff on top.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's not so much. I mean, we've done that where we've all tracked live, but then like really honestly, we've probably just kept the drum track.
Yeah,
they've also done analog.
And cleans that shit up. You know what I mean? So
analog,
No, I think that's. I mean, when you're playing all together as a band for the drummer, to track it, that's actually done that once, and it's actually kind of incredible because you get the drummer really can feel everybody together. And
totally. And then you put it all on a grid and take all that personality out of it.
Yeah.
The Sonic Highways. My friend Jim Rhoda was a part of that.
Oh yeah, you know Jim.
That was a really good friend of mine. That was beautiful, man. That whole series and going to play with the and playing with the Bad Brains and all that stuff. That was like such a good. I love that.
Yeah, that was fun because every one of those songs was recorded in a different place in a different city.
Yeah, so clever, man.
It was really fun.
Did you box Steve Martin?
I did.
Not the Steve Martin, you know, Steve Martin, the manager.
Yeah.
He used to be Gnostic Front, blew up as a manager, manages U2 now.
He's our publicist. He's our publicist. Yeah, publicist.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he comes from the scene, but he's kills it.
I was okay.
Yeah.
Different one.
Yeah, I'll tell you a funny story.
You thought you would deep dive Lacey.
Yeah, I was like, whoa.
I'll tell you a funny story about
that. You're a
that.
boxer.
Well, I mean, I boxed.
Yeah.
I to be honest, I haven't boxed for a fucking long time now. But yeah, I was super into it there for a while. And when I moved, I got into it when I was living in San Francisco. And then when I moved to New York, Steve was also into boxing and hooked me up with his trainer.
Okay.
So I started training with his trainer, and that was down at that Church Street boxing gym.
Yeah, I know Church Street. Yeah.
And they would have white collar fights. So our trainer was like, "Hey, you know, there's a white collar fight coming up. Why don't you guys fight each other?" You know, I was like, "Okay, cool." So and dude, that was.
I think Rusty might have been there, maybe.
Was he?
Rusty was good friends with Steve, and his wife worked there before she worked for Conan O'Brien.
Let me tell you something. That was so much fucking harder to do. Like you go train boxing and like spar in the gym.
Oh my god!
And you're like, "Oh man, I'm a fucking killer." You know, I'm like so. And then you go get in front of a room full of people.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I ever did that, and it fucking was hard, dude. Like 30 seconds into the first round, right? I was gassed.
Yeah.
Damn.
You know,
Yeah.
like just oh god, I just got to make it through 3 rounds. Like in my, it's funny because I was pretty early in dating my wife, and her parents were in town, and she brought them and like all her friends and stuff. And so I was just like, oh my god, I'm gonna get fucking beat up by Steve Martin in the fucking.
Did you win the fight?
I would call it a draw. I don't know. I don't know that either one of us got the best of the other guy. But I will tell you the funny part of that is that Steve, and I love you, Steve, if you ever hear this, but Steve, a while after that said, hey, you know, I don't even remember what magazine it was. He pitched me to write a little story in something. I forget, some magazine at the time, and about doing the white collar fight. And I was like, okay, cool, because my wife's photographer friend had come and took these fucking amazing shots where it just looks like fucking great looking, you know, great shots. And so I wrote the thing and I gave him, you know, one of those pictures, and then like, you know, a month goes by and the magazine comes out and he has given them a picture of him punching me, like literally like the picture in the magazine is his fist like that. It's like, you motherfucker. That's why, kids, if you're listening, you don't fucking box your publicist. Yeah, it's the wrong guy in the organization.
How many rounds was it?
3 2-minute rounds.
3 2-minute rounds.
Or it might have even been 3 1-minute rounds. I don't know. Like,
but still, it's
I know. Yeah,
he went from the hardcore scene.
Yeah,
to like,
I didn't know he went that far.
Yeah,
like,
dude.
Oh, he's still the band's publicist. Yeah.
Wow.
And
That's
you
incredible.
too as well. So many people. Maybe
Yeah,
God
tons of
got a
people.
bunch of
See
people.
them.
Paul
When he
McCartney.
was-
I mean,
Paul
he's got
McCartney.
like crazy.
That's incredible.
roster.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good for him, man.
Yeah, I heard about that. Somebody mentioned it to me. You have to ask about the Steve Martin thing.
And speaking about sports, were you
Hey,
were
soccer.
Yeah, were you really into soccer?
AY.
Well, okay, that's another internet myth. That,
Yeah,
I thought-
well, I mean, yes, I love playing soccer.
Okay.
I played at a very low level as a kid.
Okay.
But there's like, it says, I think, like
Yeah,
on my
but it was like he
Wikipedia
was
page
almost
that I-
semi-pro.
Yeah, that I had to make a choice. Do
Yeah.
I do
Right.
music or do I?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's on my notes.
I was
Yeah,
like,
that
really?
is the furthest thing from the truth.
I
I'm gonna go
realized,
play in a
this is
pickup game tonight. You can
Wikipedia.
come watch. You'll see. You'll be like, that motherfucker was never gonna play pro.
Right.
It was
I knew
AYSO.
this was like
Yeah.
a Wikipedia.
That's my son played, too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. My
'Cause I was
kids
like-
all did AYSO
Okay.
too.
I
I was
Yeah.
like, what
for
the?
sure.
I was like, no
Yeah.
way. I was like, no.
The names
Yeah.
of your favorite teams. I wrote that. Yeah.
It was like
Arsenal.
Arsenal.
Oh, it's Arsenal all
Yeah.
day. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
But you
yeah.
love soccer as a kid.
Yeah.
Like kids. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because when I was a kid, when we were all kids, like I don't know what it was like where you guys grew up, but everybody out here played soccer.
Yeah.
But nobody I knew followed soccer. You know what I mean? Like I didn't know anything about soccer. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
my
I
son
just
either.
it
He
was
loved
just the
it.
thing that you played with your
100%.
friends.
Right.
You know what I mean? But like I
But
didn't.
it blew up. Especially, I remember. I mean, I grew up in Cleveland, and I remember it blew up when Pele came to play in the U.S. in the New York team, the Spirit, I think it was called. But then-
Cosmos.
Cosmos. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
And then there was like the indoor league that happened, and that for some reason blew up in Cleveland. There's like, yes,
Really?
the Cleveland Force, and I was like, gotta go to the games. And
Cleveland
and they
Force.
come out with like, you know, Luke. It was the same time around like Star Wars and everything like, kind of blowing up, and then they would come out with like Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker. And it's like, copywriting for. I don't know if they can really do this. Like
When
they
the-
just did it. You know,
When the MLS happened, because there was all that era, and
Yeah.
then that whole league just went away.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
It like didn't take.
Unfortunately,
in
I
the States,
was-
you know, because in the States, like there's that long-standing thing, like soccer's boring, they
Yeah.
all just fall over and they're, whatever, that thing. But
Just bad at it.
but when the MLS thing happened here, the San Jose team, and I was living in the Bay Area at that
Mm-hmm.
time. The San Jose team was called the San Jose Clash. It's like,
oh yeah, that's right.
Oh, that's
yeah,
sick.
Cleveland
best
had the
fucking
Columbus.
name. Now they're called the Earthquakes or whatever. But
Yeah,
back
the
then it was the
Earthquakes.
Clash. Yeah.
But I remember that league came and I was like, yeah, and all
Yeah.
the guys in my band were just like, oh my god, they were just like laughing because
Yeah.
they went to a game in L.A. and the Galaxy was playing and there was just
Oh well, yeah, they're Brazilian though. They're
Yeah.
like, fuck you and your
But they were
silly little soccer league.
laughing.
Yeah.
Like at the game, it was just like Galaxy, Galaxy, the
Yeah.
cheers, and they're like, oh my god.
Have you ever been to a game down there?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I've never been down
numerous games.
there. Really, it must be wild.
This
South
concrete
American
ground is
Yeah.
shaking
Yeah.
from the rhythm section of everyone playing all the instruments and jumping.
Damn.
Like
Wow.
concrete shaking. You know,
Yeah.
it's like thousands and thousands of people just. It gives you goosebumps. You just
Wow.
feel
Yeah.
the sound of like the people. Like,
Well, that's the thing. Like,
so insane.
I've been to a bunch of games in the UK.
Right.
Which is also, I mean, I don't think maybe it's quite as wild with the drumming and everything, but like it is like a different kind of like sporting environment, you know, like everybody, it feels more like a concert, you know, everybody's singing the whole time. It's a different
like
thing.
You can feel it like in your chest. You're like, oh my God, this is insane.
We're supposed to be down. That's the next tour that we're supposed to do is South America. So hopefully that happens.
Ridiculous. Yeah. Because I've seen
footage of them.
I think we even played. I think you guys played Rock in Rio for sure. And we played the same Rock in Rio. So I just remember everyone in the crowd singing it, like tearing up, singing everything. I mean, it's like every band in Brazil, they're either doing a cover of Chili Peppers, Foo Fighters, Deep Purple.
Really? Deep Purple.
All young kids are like, I love Deep Purple.
Really?
That's random.
We did a tour with Deep Purple, us, and the Helicopters.
What?
Yeah.
That's what a lineup.
Stadium type stuff. Insane. I was like, that's really going to happen?
Wow.
Insane. But they have these real eclectic bands that are just huge there. Aha to
Iron Maiden still massive.
Iron Maiden still top. Ramones are always the biggest.
They killed it out there.
The biggest.
I remember. It's funny. I did a fill-in 1998 when I was still in No Use for a Name. Lagwagon's guitar player. They were supposed to go down to Brazil they had a week of shows just in Brazil, and like a couple days before he like got arrested or something. I forget. He couldn't go. So I jumped in at the last minute and went down there with him. And I remember the last night, I don't remember where we were, but the last night I was like broke off from the whole gang. I was like hanging out with these girls in some crazy club. And somebody goes, "Oh, TSOL is upstairs." I was like, "What? TSOL is here?" And this was in 1998.
Okay.
Right? So I was like, "Whoa, no way!" And I ran upstairs, and it was the Joe Wood version, the sort of later the 80s version, which I knew those guys too, though. You know, I was like, "What the fuck?" And they're like, "Dude, we fucking."
I like it too.
They will like maybe still go down there and play shows, you know, and are big. You know what I mean? Like it's that thing, that different kind of fan loyalty.
That was Revenge. That was a Revenge album, right?
I think so.
Revenge. That's a great record.
It's great. Yeah.
Great record. Yeah.
And after that, it was like Hit and Run. After that, the second album.
My best friend.
Yeah. Revenge was so good.
That other song on there,
I've been rock.
Colors.
Oh
What's
yeah. I know. Yeah, you're right. It is
Black is the color. Oh, so good. Yeah, I love that.
I don't know why I love the fast stuff too, but that record really hit me. I don't know how I heard it.
It was a re-listen. I was like, oh man, this was really good.
Because it's still Ron Emery playing guitar from the OG version of TSOL.
Yeah.
And he is fucking rad. That guy's a great guitar player.
Even when I hear the record today, I listened to it a couple months ago. It still gave me goosebumps, like thinking about the time in my life.
The time period, it really hits so strong.
Yeah.
A lot of those California bands, though, I was just like... Strike a nerve. It was so mystical. Like, it was a mystery because they weren't really touring a lot.
They weren't coming to Cleveland.
No, but a lot of bands came to Cleveland because it's the midway point of, like...
To New York.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, baby.
I was going to say that.
There you go.
That's a great segue. I was going to say congratulations on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Thank you. Yeah.
I watched the whole performance. I watched all the speeches. It was beautiful, man.
Oh, right on. Yeah,
it was really awesome.
That was cool. Yeah,
that must have been crazy. All your families were out there. That was like...
Yeah. Brought my wife and kids. It was funny when we were playing, you know.
Good segue.
When McCartney came out or whatever to do the song, and like I was like, because I was on the kind of the far side of the stage. My family, our like the band table was on across the way.
Yeah.
And I was like trying to like look behind Dave and Paul McCartney to see my family, and I could just see my kids are all just sitting there like. Fucking dad.
I think I saw when they panned on the family.
Yeah, they're always like.
On the phone, like.
That's a real thing.
Oh yeah.
Kids are just like.
But they were stoked. I mean, they you know, it's that funny thing with your kids. You're like, how can you even gauge what they're sort of registering or what they're thinking?
How old are they again?
14, 15, 18.
So what kind of music? Do they play music? Are they into music?
They don't play music so much. I mean, they all kind of went through taking lessons and stuff, but they didn't really stick with any of them. And they all are really into hip hop.
Yes.
I mean, that's like the dominant, you know.
Are you into it too because of them?
I mean, I know more about hip hop than I did fucking a few years ago. That's for sure. You know what I mean?
care to know.
Because I'll tell you funny.
So true.
Every time they would start listening to hip hop, I'd always go hip hop, hip hop, and you hip hop, and you don't stop. And then one day, I don't remember where we were, but that Sugar Hill Gang song came on, and my middle son was like, "Fuck, Dad, that's the song. That's that song you want to sing." I'm like, "I know. That's why I sing it.
It's original shit.
That's right.
That's so funny.
Yeah. Do you know certain artists like Travis Scott, different artists?
My kids are really into Earl Sweatshirt.
Oh,
and they're into like all that Odd Future, the stuff that kind of came out of Odd Future, like Tyler the Creator and all that stuff. You know what I mean? And like Kanye and all that kind of stuff too. And like it's funny because they're into different like one son's a little more like into the Earl Sweatshirt thing, the other one's maybe a little more into the 21 Savage thing, or like stuff like it's like
that's what my son's into.
Yeah, so it's cool. Like it's like I really like that about Parenthood. Is watching your kids develop their own strong opinions about shit.
Yeah,
and like they'll argue they're like stand their ground.
Yeah.
And I don't like dislike any form of music or whatever. But it is funny because when they were real young, they just listened to my records. You know what I mean? Wow. So like I thought, oh, dude, I fucking knocked it out of the park to listen to AC/DC and everything, all this shit that I loved. But then when they, around like 5th, 6th grade, they start like listening to what their friends are listening. And that became more of a thing.
100%.
And I think it's cool, and it also made me realize, like, I mean, I don't want to bag on anybody, but like the much kind of cooler and more interesting production is happening, in my opinion, oftentimes outside of rock music nowadays. Yeah. You know what I mean? You listen to some of that hip hop stuff they're listening to, and it's fucking like it's crazy sounding.
Yeah, dude.
You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not saying like rock bands should mirror that necessarily, but then you listen to like a lot of kind of like mainstream rock stuff. Just doesn't really. It just sounds a little too like. I don't know. It's a little too processed for my.
No, I know what you're saying.
Taste.
Yeah.
Do
you like Turnstile?
What's that?
Have you heard of Turnstile?
No. Is that somebody I should check out?
I think you would like them.
Cool.
I think you would like them.
Have they brought you out to like a hip hop show, or got you to go see any concerts?
I took like pretty quickly. My son, my oldest, did not want me like going in the show with him.
But Jack, you get us in?
Yeah. Well, when my oldest son figured out that I could get him tickets, it's like the fucking light bulb. Like, yo, fucking I need 4 tickets to fucking Coachella. Go get them or whatever.
Exactly.
All right.
Oh, because right now Drake's doing that too this year. Yeah.
But yeah, I took Liam to my oldest to one of the first gigs because they all grew up going to our gigs, and touring with us and stuff. So but I took him to go see what's that dude's name?
Kendrick.
Rich Bryant.
Oh,
do you know that guy? He's part of there's like a whole there's a label that puts out, it's all like Asian hip hop.
Oh wow.
And it's like,
you know that shit, you bro?
Yeah.
Rich Bryant, never heard of him.
What's the label called? Because they have like
he did a song with Ghostface.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, I took my son to that show.
Yeah.
This was years ago now, down at the Shrine.
That's sick.
And I just it's funny because I just made sure that he got in, and then I sat in my car. No joke, like watching Netflix on my phone for like 6 hours, and like worked my way through. I don't even know what, like a whole series or like 8 movies or some shit. And then finally went in at the very end just because I just was out of curiosity, and I just went and watched some of it, and it was just like, it was not my taste exactly, but like a bunch of young people just fucking nutting it up, And it was cool, cool energy. And you know what's funny about all that stuff? I'm sure you've noticed this. They all, like, my son was like, I was like in the mosh pit.
Yes.
And I'm like, what? That's really? That's the thing at hip hop shows? I'm like, all right, cool. They've totally, like, he didn't know that came out of like punk rock.
My son.
You know what I mean? Like, but
my
that's,
son.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not the same thing because it's not a big gnarly fucking pit.
Right.
It's more like dancing, but kind of wild, I guess. You know what I mean?
Oh, they're not
and
like.
I realize I sound
pitting?
like a grandpa right now.
No. You're right.
It's not like a circle pit they're doing.
I don't think so. I think it's more just like kids jumping
Just
around.
like,
You're just into it.
But they call it like I saw Travis Scott at the Forum, and there was 2 pits, and then people were kind of diving, getting up on the stage at the Forum. I said to my son, I go, why are they moshing? He's like, why are they moshing at your show? I'm like, all right, fair.
Yeah.
It's a new generation.
Yeah.
The kids were like opening up pits. They were like circle. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah. Because it's that same energy, and I think so. Like, that's what my kids are drawn to.
Teenage angst, all that.
You gotta let it out.
Are you the cool rock dad at the school? Like, did the parents know you're in the Foo Fighters at the school the kids go to?
Yes, I mean I wouldn't say I'm necessarily the cool rock dad because it's L.A. and it's like fucking. F-list celebrity, and like basically, but like, and there's some other, certainly cooler, people there, but yeah, but at my kids' elementary school, we had a great parent band that would get together once a year and put on a show for the kids, and that was always a lot of fun.
Oh, that's cool.
Because there's some really great players, like great,
different bands. Okay,
yeah, not even band people, like session cats and like
I've been wanting to play.
Yeah, and like composers and and people like and producers and just people that are great players, but maybe not necessarily in the public eye.
Yeah,
and like really like. Great. And then some that, like fucking Don Was and people like that getting up and playing, like pretty cool.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Now at the age that my kids are at, like, you don't go into the school to drop them off.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I feel like totally cut off.
Yeah.
It's such a weird thing, man.
I know. Like, all through elementary school, like you don't realize how lucky you are to be able to like walk your kid in and talk to their teacher and fucking sit there and schmooze with the other parents and all that thing. Like I really miss that,
Yeah, I have like this fear of leaving the nest syndrome thing kicking. My son's 18 now. I'm like, dude, Billie Eilish is 19. She lives at home.
He's 19.
Oh, he's 19. I'm like, Billie Eilish is 19. She lives at home. You can sing her as long as you want.
Yeah.
You have a studio in the garage. You got your drums in there. A bit of extension on the house. Like,
oh, dude, my oldest is a senior. He's going to college in New York next year.
Oh, wow.
Like, and I think about it literally every day, and I'm so stoked and so proud of him that he's doing what he wants to do. But at the same time, like, New York, like, fuck, are you kidding? That's like a 5-hour plane ride. Fuck,
You should love it there, though.
I know. My wife immediately was like, we need to buy an apartment in New York. I was like, fucking cool down. Easy now.
You could probably get a cheap one now in Manhattan, though, the way things are right there.
Really?
I don't know. I heard everything's dropped out there. It's fucking... Okay, real quick, besides all the Foo Fighters stuff, Real McCoy, I know you guys played 3 gigs. You have Jackson United, Viva Death, so many different bands. Chevy Metal, Chris Shiflett Band. You have so many different side things you've been doing. Country stuff.
Yeah. Most of my side stuff these days is leans a little more country rock kind of flavor thing. Yeah.
I like that though.
Yeah. So that's been fun.
But you've always stayed busy in between the Foo Fighters tours and doing stuff and
and
writing.
That is the cool thing. I mean, you guys asked about songwriting and stuff. I really didn't like develop as a songwriter till kind of later. Like really it was like late 20s. Early 30s when I really started to explore songwriting, and then
Chris Shiflett, Dead Peasants.
Yeah, like all that stuff. So it's that is one of the great things about Foo Fighters is there's some bands where it's sort of frowned on to do stuff outside of it, but we certainly are not one of them. Everybody is kind of active doing this and that.
Yeah. Cool. What does all hat no cattle mean?
Yeah, I think that means like you're full of shit.
Okay.
You're like I think it means you're a poser. I thought it was funny because it's because it's a covers record.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so I think it's like it means like that guy's all hat and no cattle. Like he's just there's no substance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Viva Death, that was with your brother.
Yeah.
Cool. And then you have the podcast too, Walking the Floor podcast.
Yeah.
And what's that title from?
That's an old Ernest Tubb song.
Okay.
And it's also like a lyrical theme that pops up in a lot of old honky-tonk songs. A lot of country songs through the years. There will be some reference to Walking the Floor.
Yeah.
And it's usually like you're heartbroken and you're, kind of thing. But when I was trying to figure out a name for the podcast, I don't know, it just seemed like it fit. And I knew it was going to be kind of more like Americana, twangy, country focused.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we established a little bit.
Yeah, earlier we checked out the guests.
Like,
who's that? Yeah.
Who are these people?
Who is this Merle Haggard?
No, I know.
It wasn't that bad. Come on, man.
You have like 170 episodes out. That's amazing.
Yeah.
When did you
start?
start?
There's a bunch. I started back in 2013.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm still doing it. It's funny. Through COVID, I did a lot of it at first.
Was it video too, or just audio?
No, well, I use some of the Zoom footage now to like make a little clip for it or whatever. But it kind of like, to be honest, it kind of burnt me out on. I was like, fuck, I feel like I'm full-time podcasting right now. So like, and I've been doing this format for a while, and I've got another idea that I'm trying to get going and pitch some folks on it, and I'm gonna see if that'll go. So yeah, probably at some point I'll at the very least just kind of segue into a different kind of podcast thing, that's maybe a little more guitar centric.
Yeah, and which one's like the country one you're doing? That's not the Dead Peasants. That's just the Chris Shiflett band.
Well, yeah, and Dead Peasants was like the first I did 2 Dead Peasants record, and the first one was like the first time I ever really tried to kind of write in that style, you know, or not so much that I was trying to write in that style, but I just listened to a lot of that music, and so it was the first time I ever tried to like record some of that stuff, you know. And then the All Hat No Cattle record was like a covers record, basically, that we recorded pretty much like not the vocals, but the band. We did that live in the room out at our Foo studio.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, which was fun.
Oh, yeah, so you can go there with your other projects and work in that studio too.
Yeah, I was just in there yesterday recording some stuff. Like it's, you know, it's funny this week is like I didn't get as much done yesterday as I wanted to, and I was like, I need to come back like on Wednesday. And they're like, nope, Dave's in here Wednesday and Thursday. I was like, well, how about Friday? Nope, Nate's in here. Like, you know, you're like, you know, edging each other out for time.
I got to go out there one
time. Oh, you checked it out?
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's so
it's a great
awesome.
room. Yeah, for sure.
It's massive.
Yeah, what area is that in? What part is that?
So much
Northridge.
Northridge, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But don't drop by if you're listening.
You're not welcome.
What was the last real job you had?
The last real job I had was not long. You know, when I was in No Use for a Name, I was probably like, you know, half the time not having to work. Okay. You know, and especially towards the end. You know, because like, once we did a couple of Gimme Gimmes records that sold a little bit, made a little money off that, like had a couple of No Use for a Name records and then did touring. But like usually life would sort of be like, we'd go on tour, I'd come home, I'd have a little money for a minute, and then maybe after a couple months I'd have to go get a job delivering pizzas or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
And I remember the last job I had was not a terrible job. I was working in this office, and it was these two women, and I think their job was like they supplied the lighting to like the Gap and Banana Republic or something. It was like that was their thing.
Yeah.
And I was just like a rando office guy.
Oh wow.
Clerk, you know. And I remember they offered, because it was like a part-time thing, and they offered me the job full-time, and then something I went on tour. I don't remember. That was less.
So that,
right
2000?
before that was like 99, and that spring semester before I joined Foo Fighters, I went to City College in San Francisco, and I don't think I was working through that. I think I just maybe had some money from the Gimmes records or something.
What was your course? Like, what were you taking?
Well, you remember I dropped out of high school, so I mean, I took like just dumb entry level. I just had never. It was like I had a conversation with a buddy of mine that was going to college at that time. And I said something like, "Oh man, I never went to college. It'd be, you know, it's something I regret." And he goes, well, why don't you go? I was like, I can't. I'm in a band. He goes, you're like sitting around. What do you mean? You're in a band. You could totally go.
Yeah.
Like it's the opposite. And I signed up for, I remember I took like 4 classes, and it was like real entry level math and English and history and political science. I think, just to do it. And it was really fun. And I was actually kind of thinking like, you know, I might kind of go down that path and maybe do that, and then the Foo Fighter gig came up, so deferred.
Yeah. And you have your GED?
I got my proficiency, which is the state version of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And not one person ever
that
asked
lets
to
you
see
get
it.
into college.
No one's ever asked to see it.
There was never a time that I was like applying for a job. Well, we're gonna need to see the paperwork on that. Okay, here you go.
Wait, is that what you needed to get into the City College?
No, you didn't need shit to get into City College. You just needed, you know, $10.50 or whatever it was to pay for the unit.
That's so funny.
American education system.
Top notch. Best in the land.
You consider yourself an optimist or pessimist?
Oh, that's a tough one. I mean, honestly, I'm a lean more pessimist. More of a skeptic.
You don't seem like that.
Well, I know, but like, you know,
Are you a realist?
I guess, you know, I mean, I think I probably have like low expectations and hope for the best. You know, kind of has always been my outlook, I think. Yeah.
Whatever works for you, yeah.
Yeah.
And how about any major regrets in your life?
College.
Major regrets?
Say college. High school.
College.
Had I known I would look like such a schmo to my own children by dropping out of high school, I probably would have just stuck it out and got, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's my kids like rue the day that I dropped out, because they're like, fuck, Dad, we get it. You dropped out. We're not going to. Just get off my ass. I did my homework.
Right.
I swear.
Back at you, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, even my youngest last night was like, I know you're just always freaked out about my homework because you dropped out, which is true.
Right.
It's 100% true. But
it sucks your kids know everything.
Oh, they know everything.
I didn't go to college. My son's
yeah.
You didn't go to college.
Yeah.
I'm like, so you can. We got you.
Yeah.
You're not me. You're not me.
I know.
Exactly.
They have to know everything because they can't throw it back at you like that.
Super smart, those kids.
Especially when you've had some sort of like public life, where they can. Did you ever go through that with your son? Like I remember seeing I remember walking in on my youngest Googling me.
Oh wow!
Like that thing where you're like, whoa, what's and
you're like,
kind of
don't believe Wikipedia.
Shit, what's gonna come up when you do the image search? That might not be great.
A couple girls my son was dating, their parents did that on me.
Really?
And we went to go meet them. They started talking to me about my band. They checked on me and what I.
Just tell them
what
not.
I do.
Just tell them not to go to Wikipedia.
I know.
You should put that out there.
Because this guy hates soccer. No, I'm just kidding.
No, it's like it's always wrong.
I know.
It's
is, dude. People can change it too.
That's the thing.
Anybody can fuck with it, right?
Anybody can go and change it.
You're pretty private life though, your family and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it was important to us to keep our. I wanted my kids to just have a pretty Mayberry upbringing.
Yeah.
Just keep them on a schedule and. We were, I don't know that we were overly strict, but tried to be, maybe a little stricter than most on screen time and having a bedtime and all that stuff. And it's all out the window now because they're old enough to that you can't prevent them from doing anything, I
know, man.
You just try to lead them down the right path. But
scary world right now.
It is.
Did they come on tour with you too when they were young?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's cool.
And still do. Summertime.
Yeah.
Summertime Foo Fighters tour, because everybody's got kids and it's kind of kids. It's a pretty wide range of kids nowadays.
They're not too cool for it. Come see your dad's band play again, or
they're
for the 100th time.
Yeah. I mean, they might not sit through your whole set.
Exactly.
But if especially if we go play these festivals and if it's on some of the other artists or bands that they like.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. But now you're traveling. I mean, is it now when you travel that? You're not traveling with the band on one bus. It's
each
person.
Especially summer tours. Usually,
everyone's bringing their family.
Yeah, and usually it's
you have your own bus.
Yeah, often.
Sick.
Yeah.
Congratulations, bro.
Thank you.
Fucking crazy.
Yeah, right.
I know.
Sleeping on floors, going.
He went from his own
I already went over to
his
Jason
own hotel
Newsted.
room,
I was
his own bus.
I got to ask Jason Newsted. I was like, so since you're in Metallica, because I just joined the band and I was recording at his house. So you get to travel, with all the guys. He's like, no. I mean, he's like, I don't. He's like, those guys fly and I take the bus. I was like, really? You take a bus to every gig? And he's like, yeah. He's like, everybody else flies. He's like, I like being on the bus.
I do. I love the bus.
I like the bus.
It's funny because we don't bus as much as we used to.
Now it's all fly.
It's all especially if it's Europe in the summer, we wind up kind of flying everywhere, and I do find myself I miss the bus. I love bus tours. I know. That's the best kind of touring. No
doubt.
Yeah. I remember I heard rumors that Eddie Vedder back in the day when they were huge. He drove his own car. The other guys were on the bus. Swear to God, dude. Is
that true? Really?
That's what I heard, man. I heard from some
people. I know that Neil Peart, completely different subject. I mean, it's the band would be traveling.
I'm a poser. Who is
drummer for Rush?
All right,
thank you, Chappelle.
Okay,
he would take his motorcycle.
Oh yeah, I think I heard that.
Sick.
Too. Yeah.
I was like, that's incredible.
He would. Yeah, they talked about it in their documentary.
Yeah.
I mean, I still go out and do van tours fairly regularly with my solo stuff.
Yeah, that must be nice.
And it is fun. Well, it's also very different.
He's getting his own room for sure. The guy's now.
There's some things I can't. I'll stay at the Motel 6, but I'm gonna be in my own room.
It must be weird though to go back to that from every. Yeah.
I mean, I never stopped doing it, so it's not that weird. But the difference between the way I do that now and the way I did it then is that they never let me drive. In No Use for a Name.
Okay.
And I slept through all those tours.
That's awesome.
You know what I mean? I was always asleep in the bunk, for the 8-hour drive.
Yeah.
Or, we have the loft with the gear or whatever.
Sick.
And now I tend to mostly just drive myself. So you kind of see
nice.
the world differently.
Yeah.
The thing, and I'm not saying I would prefer to go back to a van tour necessarily, but I like dipping my toe into it because when you go and you're in a town, you know, you drop your shit off and then you can kind of tool around in the van. You ain't like taking the private jet tooling around to go to Denny's. You know what I mean?
Get to check out the town.
Yeah, check out the town.
You in the hotel, like you see it.
Yeah.
For the 100th time, but still you get to see it.
Yeah.
Did Foo Fighters do something where they got the same van they had, played the same venues?
You know, it's a bummer. We were all set to do that.
You heard about that?
We were doing that was the plan for 2020.
Okay.
And then and then that got COVID.
That was such a cool idea, though.
Yeah,
it's a great idea.
Yeah, I'll go back and play the same spots.
Yeah, Dave still has that van. I mean, it's parked at our studio, I think, right now.
Yeah, I don't know him personally, and I know like you guys are in the band together. But he seems, the times I met him before, he seems like a very humble, not forget where he comes from, all the roots of punk rock, everything with the DC connection, like the most humble guy. And you guys are like one of the biggest rock bands in the world. I mean, there's not many rock bands anymore if you think about it.
True.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, he's definitely a guy that like appreciates where he came from.
Yeah,
for sure. You know, and also like a lot of people in his orbit are people, you know, that work with the band and all that sort of thing, are people that he's worked with for a very long time.
Yeah.
You know, so there is that thing.
Yeah, I saw that in that documentary thing about obviously playing with the Bad Brains. He loves them, and
sure,
it's the greatest day of my life playing these songs with them, and just like, he's always talking about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't really. That's what I love, because he's such a massive person in this band, but he definitely comes from our world. You know?
Yeah, for sure.
And that was definitely his connection with you, like your band played with him and stuff like that. It's cool.
Yeah, I never asked him, but I always felt like that was like the thing.
Not that you weren't a good player, but you had that roots and the history with him.
Yeah, I felt like that. You
helped.
Know, yeah, for sure.
Rat Pack.
Yeah.
Back to Rat Pack.
Yeah.
Fuck, man. You have any more questions for this guy, Chappelle?
Come on,
I mean, this is your chance, bro.
No, I'm good.
Do you have no nerdy Foo Fighters questions?
I mean, I know a lot.
What do you know?
What do you mean?
I should be asking him a few questions.
I know,
right?
Yo, Chappelle, is there anything you want to know
in?
that's true or not about Foo Fighters, or something that you...
I don't know. That's kind of tough because I'm pretty damn good with this shit.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
You didn't know he boxed Steve Martin, though. I got you with that one.
You got me on that one.
That was a deep dive. That was a deep dive.
Yeah, you got me on that one.
I thought it was the actor, though. He was excited.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, I've seen him.
Yeah.
I know every time I've seen you guys. I mean, it just. I remember the first time I saw you guys was the Wasting Light tour. When you guys were touring that record, it was 2011 in Phoenix, Arizona, at the Suns Arena. Trying to think of what else. That was a huge set. I remember that. You guys had that. You guys had that. La Mariachi.
Oh, the Bronx.
Mariachi Bronx was on that tour?
Yeah.
Oh, sick.
Yeah.
Shout out to Matt.
Doing their mariachi
doing
thing.
the
Bronx
mariachi thing. I remember that.
Chappelle, what is Rollins changed your life, Chappelle, right?
Yeah.
So what is your connection to Foo Fighters? Obviously, you know Dave's from the DC Scream, the hardcore. Like, what do you think it is about Foo Fighters you love so much?
It was initially that first record, and I just never stopped from there. The first record. And
you love all the records.
Yeah, I love all the records. Yeah.
That's good. You can say that about a band. You love all their shit. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. And then
he's your number one fan, bro. By the way.
Yeah.
Take it.
So I actually was performing in the comedy tent on that Sonic Temple Festival.
No shit.
Oh,
yes.
wow.
And then,
so do you know Dave's cousin?
Yes.
Yes, because he's a comedian.
Yes. So I was able to go backstage and hang out back there.
At big day for Lacey.
Yeah. But it was so funny because I kind of just stood in the corner and just kind of like stood by myself.
Oh, that's funny.
I actually did talk to Pat because I know Shane West, who did
punk rock actor.
Yeah. So like I knew all that, and and then I just kind of like still, but I did get to meet Dave,
right on,
because of his cousin and stuff like that.
Was he everything you dreamed?
Did you do a shot with him? That's the real.
Ooh,
I wasn't drinking at the time.
Damn.
Yeah.
Good for you,
because that would be the classic Foo Fighter backstage. Experience.
I didn't do any drinking or anything like that.
So maybe Wikipedia's wrong. What was your favorite song to play by them? Still.
Oh yeah.
You love playing. I have it written down. Let's see if Wikipedia's correct.
I mean, for as far as like what we normally play, is like probably All My Life, Forever Long, or something. You know what I mean? We just did a thing. We just did a thing the other day that we played some songs that we haven't played. Some songs that I don't think ever played live.
Oh wow!
And that was really fun too.
Wait, where was this?
Well, it was a thing that hasn't been. It's not.
Oh yeah, it's not.
I don't know how soon you're posting this. But it won't be announced for a minute.
Because one of my favorites.
Some content.
And I've actually never seen you guys play it live, but one of my favorites is My Poor Brain.
Oh, we used to play that all the time when I first joined the band,
and that's why I knew it from that that winter show or whatever. Like, was it like Winter Olympics or something? You guys were playing. What was that?
Oh, yes, it was. That's exactly what it was.
It was the Winter Olympics.
It was Salt Lake City.
Yeah, so you guys played My Poor Brain at that show. I remember you guys were all bundled up in jackets.
Dude, that was cold. I had those hand warmers in my pockets.
Yeah. I remember. So the reason why I know all this like live footage stuff, is because I watch Foo Fighters concerts like religiously.
He's a deep diver.
I know all the
shit.
Don't get scared. It's a lot of bands too.
It's from the Big Day Outs to Tea in the Park. The Rock and Reels.
We got to get you like to at least like 3 or 4 more Foo Fighters shows to really put a pad on that GBH.
Oh, the GBH.
You know what I mean? And kind of ensure that we keep way out in front.
Dude, Everlong's still a song I hear and I get like goosebumps. I get emo when I hear it.
Yeah, it's pretty emo.
It makes me so. I don't know why. I guess you feel emotion when you hear it.
I remember when you guys. I remember when you guys opened with it. You guys opened with it. It was a tour where Dave's foot was broken. You guys opened with. I saw it. It was like 25. What?
So amazing.
I remember when I first, not long after I first joined the band, we played Bowery Ballroom.
Ooh,
and Rusty was there, and I never forget.
Rusty was at the first show. Rusty was at Bowery Ballroom.
And I remember after the show, he goes, "Dude, that was so rad when you guys were playing Everlong, and you were like singing it like a fan."
Right.
Wow.
And it stuck with me because when I first joined the band, I would try to remind myself not to do this, but because I didn't know them, Right. And I would watch them. Well, but I'd have to, I'm fucking playing. Stop doing that.
I'm playing the song that I love with it.
Crazy. Because it's a weird thing. Like those first couple records, I was a fan of those records, so my like sort of relationship to those songs is different.
Yeah.
Then and then that third record I didn't play on, but I toured it, so like I have a different sort of connection to that, and then there's all the stuff that we've done since I joined the band. It's like a different, I saw how the sausage was made, So it's like I hear it different or something, I hear those first couple albums just like a fan, just as a whole.
Is it still kind of surreal to you that you're in that band?
There are moments.
This is your life?
Yeah, I mean, there are moments. Yeah, definitely.
It's fucking crazy.
I think
Go ahead. This is the last one.
Oh yeah, I'll do last one. Will Bridge Burning make the set list again?
Ooh, we just played that somewhere.
Yeah.
Where you been, Chappelle? You're supposed to be at every fucking show.
I know.
We just
wait. Where?
I feel like we just played that in Las Vegas.
I missed you guys at the
because we
Forum.
played we mixed up the set a little bit because we did like 2 nights.
Yeah.
So a lot of times if we do 2 nights in the same place, we'll have you try to mix up the set a little bit.
Did you say they did an Angry Samoans cover song?
Yeah, they used to.
That was
Gas
before
Chamber.
me.
That was
Yes,
before him.
yes.
That was before
you
him.
Never played it with him?
No.
Maybe, but I don't feel like it.
That was
yeah,
I do know the answer. That was before the second record came out.
Yeah.
Yeah, they played on. Man,
and I feel like Gus got up and sang it or something.
No
with the
way.
band. Yeah, yeah.
He knows that shit. That's cool.
Yeah. It's funny. Like Gus was. I don't know if you ever played down in Pensacola way back when, but Gus was a promoter down there.
Okay.
So he even before.
He was around the scene. Stuff
Oh
like that.
yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. He even promoted the first time I went to Pensacola was when I was roading for Sib's band.
Okay.
Because they were on tour with the Bosstones and Face to Face, and we played down there at like the Night Owl or something. I think he was the promoter on that show. But then that first year, the Warped Tour, you remember Seaweed was on there.
Yeah.
And Gus was tour managing them. That's how I knew him. Yeah.
Damn! Shout out to the Bosstones too. This announced not together anymore. I love that band.
I
They
know
changed my life.
I don't know. Where'd that
man.
come from?
I don't know, but they changed my life. That band
big
took us
time.
on tour.
Yeah.
Incredible humans.
Yes.
Musicians and just nice,
big time.
gentlemen. You know what I mean?
Dude, that band in a big way. That was the first tour I ever went on in my whole life, and that band really like showed me and probably a lot of people how to do it and how to be hospitable to the people that are underneath
Treat
you
other
on
bands.
the right. Yeah, I remember Dickie getting
dude.
mad at me because I asked like too many times if I could have a beer. He was like, get in here, drink the fucking beer, make a sandwich, goddammit. 100%. Stop asking.
Those guys
you know what? And we were with them when they were big, and we were with them when Let's Face It blew up, and they were the same dudes.
Yeah.
Humble, take care of us, like.
Totally.
Yeah, man. I don't know what happened, but I love that band. It was such an incredible part of my band and just everything. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Big time.
That's it for you, Chappelle. You good?
Yeah. I'm good. I just gotta line up my
So
Foo Fighters
what
concert.
can we look for coming up with you? Like you country stuff? Or
yeah, so I've been chipping away at a new record, and we're trying to figure out. I've got a couple of songs that I'm going to put up here pretty soon, trying to figure out how I'm going to get. I think we've got it more or less sorted, but I don't know if I'm going to put out an album so much as maybe just put up some songs for a while, kind of thing. So we'll see, how that goes, and then with Foo Fighters stuff, we've got like that movie coming out. And
the horror movie.
Some stuff around that.
Jim Roder worked on that.
Yes. And then we're supposed to go down to South America, I think in March, and hopefully that goes.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
I'll let you know.
And then are you going there first?
I'm leaving Thursday.
Oh shit! Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You let us know how it's going down there.
Yeah.
Send us a postcard.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. It's like, don't come.
Yeah.
I want.
Mr. Brazilian's like, why are you saying that, Derek? No, they need to come. Come to Brazil.
It's gonna be magic when you walk on stage again, though.
I hope so.
I mean, I'm sorry, when you limp on stage.
Yeah, when I limp on stage.
Stop it.
In
South America,
speaking of like emotional. Stage and stepping out, when we watched, where I was like, oh, we can watch this show like on Hulu, the show that happened in Chicago.
Yes.
Oh, so yeah. So I was sitting there and
Lollapalooza.
Lollapalooza.
They killed it. I remember that.
And I was just like, oh my God, I wonder how it feels to be able to be in a band like that where the sound is gonna be legit every night.
That's a great question.
Oh yeah.
Is it like that every?
Well, just to tie that back into what we were talking about before. So our onstage, like the guy that does the monitor mix onstage sound, Ian, has been with Dave since like I think the first Nirvana tour he ever did, or something like that. Like I think the first time he went to go tour the UK, because Ian's Scottish, was it was when he met Ian. He's been with him ever since. So yeah, no, he's amazing. He's been with the band forever, way before I was in the band, and like literally every night it sounds great and it sounds the same, and it's you know what I mean.
Knew it.
You got your mix worked out and it's all great. I was calling him. We have been talking about ordering some new in-ear monitors or whatever this week. So yeah, love Ian.
God, I mean, because that's a dream come true to me.
Yeah.
Like I always. Because, I mean, you can see the level that's so different when I was watching all the other bands before you guys played. And then you get on, it's just like, kind of like at a live show when you're opening up for a band that's really big. And then they get on, it's like, holy shit, where did all that sound come from?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like we had that happen a few times with like Metallica. And I was just like, people are like, that was great. And then Metallica comes on. It's like, oh, like the heavens come through.
Is it true that some headliners don't want the band before them to sound that good? And they can
totally.
Oh,
that's classic. Yeah, give them like half the PA or
whatever.
No,
that's what I learned joining the band. I was like, damn.
Yeah.
I was like, but there's certain bands that are generous with giving you part of the
I remember going to see when I was young, like going to see the Stones at the Coliseum here in LA and on that Steel Wheels tour. And Living Colour opened, and then Guns N' Roses, and then the Stones. Right. And I swear to God, when Living Colour were playing, it was like daylight, and I was in, it's the Coliseum. It's just fucking gigantic, like 100,000 people or whatever. And you practically, like, couldn't hear them. You know what I mean? It was like that shitty of that small. And then when Guns N' Roses came out, it was better.
Yeah.
And then when the Stones came out, they just came out brown in it, and all of a sudden it was fucking Technicolor. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. Like when you guys came out, I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Like I was like, oh, TV
sure.
production is really. Yeah. And then it was like, okay, on TV it sounds amazing. I was like, God, that's like a dream to come out like every show. Just like I know it's gonna sound amazing.
Yeah.
Well, bravo. I mean, the production is that team. Whoever, it makes sense. They've been working with you guys for a long time.
Yeah.
So,
do you get nervous anymore going on stage with Foo Fighters?
Depends on what it is.
And worry about fucking up or anything? Or no?
I mean, I figured out a long time ago that like you'd really have to fall on your face for anybody to know. And when you figure that out, it really like gives you some confidence.
That's true. I mean, because you could think you sucked and you fucked up, and the crowd doesn't hear anything.
Right.
Maybe the band might have heard something. Look at each other for a second.
Yeah. You got a few guitarists, you'd be like,
I know.
Oh yeah.
Like,
it was that guy.
Yeah. But like there are moments, if you're like playing a new song or something, you know what I mean. That those where you're like, you don't want to fuck that up. But I feel like I get more excited than nervous.
Yeah.
You
still get excited. Yeah. You're stoked to play those songs and.
Yeah. I get nervous as fuck when I do my own shit because it's I'm singing and I'm playing guitar and it's like you gotta remember all those fucking words. I mean,
and do you
guys
feel
know
more
what
pressure?
that's like? Yeah, that's hard.
And do you feel more
and
pressure?
there's less people there.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
And they don't know
Super
your
hard.
music.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? You got to remember the Foo Fighters show, everybody there is like there
I
because they
know.
want to hear those songs. And when you're going out and you're doing your own thing, you're trying to win people over.
Absolutely.
And like people might be skeptical. You know, that's a different.
Yeah, so you have
Totally.
Foo Fighter fans coming out to see you probably, and people from your past and all that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And then you're playing small venues and carrying your own shit.
Yeah, and then playing like music that like has some country flavor to it. People are like, what the fuck? That doesn't sound like me first in the gimme gimmies, man. What the fuck is this guy doing?
Totally. Yeah.
All right, so Walking the Floor podcast. There's gonna be more episodes, hopefully, or something.
Yeah.
new coming. Okay.
I think then I just put one up on Monday.
Okay.
But
you drop them every Monday.
I try to do it every 2 weeks when I'm really in the flow.
Okay.
Yeah. I was doing it. There was a point where I did it weekly, and I felt like it was too much. I just felt like I was always, because it's just me, and I was like, felt like I was always editing and thing.
Oh, you edit your own shit too?
Yeah, and I don't do much in the way of editing, but just even recording a little preamble and putting some background music and kind of mixing it all together. Not my strong suit.
Well, I'm psyched for the horror movie. When's that coming out?
Yeah, I think February 25th. Yes.
Deep dive racing.
So that's going to be in the movie theaters? That's going to be movie theaters?
Yeah. That's going to have a theatrical release even. Yeah.
You're fucking amazing.
Put the mic down.
Well, thank you, man. Thank you for being here, man. I really appreciate
no,
it,
it's
man.
super fun, man.
It's great to catch up with you, and
Yeah.
stoked for you. And
I always love talking to people that are also musicians because it's a different kind of, it's a conversation. It's not an interview.
that's what the shit is.
That's a good point.
And comedians too. This guy's
Yes.
who's gonna be he started a band like a punk band, so we're gonna hear that soon.
Good.
Yeah.
Soon I will have seen your band more than any other band I've ever seen.
GBH versus Foo Fighters.
Yeah,
That's right.
GBH versus Foo
That's right.
Fighters, man.
That's right.
Fucking
Yeah.
sick.
Fucking tell Colin we're coming for him.
Yep.
All right, bro. Thank you so much for being
Yeah,
here.
no worries, man. Thank
Thank you guys for being here, Derek and Chappelle.
Yes.
De nada.
What?
That was Spanish.
Spanish.
You're welcome.
Okay,
man.
go whatever. Love you. Hey guys, thanks for listening. Please rate, review, subscribe. If you haven't subscribed yet to this podcast, please do that. And whatever platform you are listening to this on, I'm glad you found me. You can rate me and review me on there also. So thank you guys sincerely for the support. I cannot wait for you guys to hear the next one.